Alright, and now we're live. Alright, so... None of us are Canadian, though. Where's Coolios when you need him? Alright, welcome...
You know, Doom is...
The slow burn Doom. Yes, welcome to episode 72 of Cast of Shadows. Start off with the Star Citizen stuff. So it's Alien Week, for anyone who doesn't know. It's pretty much just all the alien ships on the RSI website are on sale. You can buy them. That's really it in regards to like content. There's nothing special going on in game or anything like that. But yeah, there's nothing like special going on in game.
Like a Vandal
invasion.
Nope. It's just here's some alien ships on the website. That's it. Like the Railin or the Banu Merchantman now. Defender. We did get a look inside the Banu the Banu Merchantman in inside Star Citizen. That was pretty cool, although controversial, apparently, because it's not close enough to the concept. People are flipping out, despite the concept being made in 2013, and they showed what the more relevant in-game model would look like in 2017, which looks more like what we have now.
It's the carrot all over again.
I mean, yeah, it kind of is. Except, unlike the Carrack, we did get a model that looks closer to the source material.
Sure.
Not for using.
They also talked about how it's basically skeleton crewed right now for further development till a future date.
Future.
Yeah, and I don't see us or the cargo refactor anyways. That ship is
Nope. Yup.
like they did an actual tour inside the ship and it was kind of neat. It's a very spacious, large ship. It's like what? How much bigger than it was on concept originally? Like it's supersized now.
Well, before it was super, original like concept art, it was supersized. Then it got a whole lot smaller because they're like, yeah, no, that ain't gonna happen. They're like, no, we'll supersize this shit. It definitely got the love treatment as opposed to the hate treatment from the ship crew.
Yeah.
Like some ships, Terrapin. They just get
not
shit
not the
on
little
by the
Terrapin.
ship
Poor
crew.
little Terrapin.
I don't know why.
Just give it time. It'll get a rework eventually.
Reworked. We added one extra antenna on it.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of systems that have to come in game before it can even do what it was meant to do. So
Yeah.
The poor Terrapin. But yeah, the Banu Merchantman. I mean, I think it looks good. I mean, I'm not really attached to this ship. I really don't care, honestly. So, like, as long as it's functional and usable, like, because personally, I'm not a fan of the colors they have on the model in the video, but the colors you can change. So,
Or can you?
I don't think the white looks good here. But aside from that, the Banu Merchantman. And the wings fold out, right, or extend out. It's supposed to be a floating bazaar. As long as it serves that
That's
purpose.
bizarre, you know.
I think part of the problem was their original marketing. It's kind of like, it's supposed to have amazing self-defense capabilities, and they really kind of marketed it that. So people are thinking like, oh, this is a trading ship that I can fight in, and like you said earlier, this was concepted 13 years ago, or whatever. 10 years ago,
2013, yeah.
years,
7 years, whatever. But
Not
the
quite that
point
far.
being, it was concepted so long ago that, you know, the game requirements have changed, and the realities of other things being implemented has changed what and how it's going to perform. So I think some people just can't let that go. You know, they're going to be able to go out and dogfight with that thing.
If I remember correctly, it still has a lot of the defensive capabilities. It's just, yeah, it's not meant for fighting. Yeah, it's supposed to be able to hold its own in a fight if under attack, but you're not supposed to be getting into fights with it.
It's not a ship you're going to be rolling into battle with on the front lines.
You're not showing up to, you know, a hot combat zone with the merchantman. That's just not what it's meant for.
Look, if I can't dogfight it, it's not a real ship.
There's a portion of the community that probably purchased that ship who haven't let that go, and that, you know, those are the people complaining about the size increases and original concept. Like, well, you know,
You
want
call
a
it a
game?
concept for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe that's
That
why they
said-
shouldn't. That's why I don't think they should be selling concept ships. Talked about this in the past. It leads to more problems than it's worth.
And that said, I mean, I think that CIG should try to meet their original concept statements as much as possible. You know, just for the sake of you know, providing what they said they were going to provide.
Right, just keeping true to your word type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say the interior does look nice. Does look.
It does.
I mean, it's white box, but gray box, but still. Can't wait to actually see it fully finished. Like a fun little ship, or little being a not actual word here, large ship. It's still little compared to other ships. And I mean, they showed off the bridge. They showed off like the cruise quarters and spacesuits. They talk about how the ship is of alien make, so it has to accommodate aliens that made it, humans that use it, and other alien races that will be boarding it.
Apparently, too, it's not going to have a captain's quarters. All crew, including the captain, are sleeping in the same bunk area. Which apparently that pissed some people off.
It's Banu. They do things different. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
supposedly the Banu don't sleep. So the idea, or
that.
like, not necessarily. Somebody's going to jump on me for that statement, but
Probably.
essentially, they don't need.
It's a Banu ship retrofitted for humans, so you don't have a dedicated sleeping rooms kind of thing. They're a different culture. They do things differently. Some stuff would have had to be retrofitted in to make this work for humans. That's how it's going to be.
Actually, I think the Banu ships are meant for multi-species use, not so much.
Yeah, still.
But yeah, no, it's the same principle essentially. Yeah, it's designed by aliens for multiple different aliens, including humans. And it's nice. Again, the interior looks nice, and as for the whole sleeping thing, yeah, you know, it's meant for. Even if Banu did sleep to the same extent that humans do, they're all about family and shit. Anyways, they're not gonna have like a captain in this quarters.
You aren't going to have one room where you sleep away from everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, they explained it in the video. Like,
Yep.
The devs talked about it. They specifically said why it's a communal room.
Yeah, they talked about the entire ship in pretty good length, I thought. Talk about why it's like this, because the aliens and their culture, and they do this way, that way, and all that. It's like I enjoyed it that they were actually talking about that, not just we designed it because it looked pretty.
Pretty.
Like they wanted to go for this authentic feel for the ship. Like, okay, this is made by aliens for you and other aliens. the med bay was very interesting with like the gel pods or whatever.
Yep. Someone say Bacta?
Yeah. Again, it's an alien ship and it looks the part, so that's always good. It will be fun to fly when it doesn't look like the concept, or whether it looks like the concept or not. I'm personally not
That's what
gonna
they want you to think.
have one because I'm not a trading guy.
You want it?
A lot of trading people will. Yeah, this week in Star Citizen is all alien stuff. So, got the lore
Ooh,
post for the
all
Banu.
aliens.
Tomorrow is the Banu transmission for the lore stuff. Last week we got the Xi'an transmission. Which I talked to Chris and he's translating it. So,
as opposed to making it.
right. But yeah,
Just
alien
got
Day,
a call out mention on one of Astropub's videos last week.
Here it is. Here's
Cool.
the Xi'an transmission. Oh, Chris got a call out last week on the Astro.
Yeah, they were talking about the Xi'an language Astropub referenced, Chris.
Nice.
Cool.
The point of reference that people should seek out for anything Xi'an language related, which is good for for Hero.
Yep.
We
And if you
walk
guys
on
want
the
to,
NU.
he's in our Discord server if you want to bug him about this stuff. Please don't pile on, though.
So you walk in on your Christmas ships and all the signs beyond. Shit.
Answers are all in Xi'an. You have to translate.
How do you say escape pod in Xi'an? Oh, it's
Full. It's a lot.
One thing
if
I
I
didn't
if I
realize
know,
until-
oh sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say that I think it's related to Xenothreat. It's like over Xenothreat warning. On transmission.
gosh darn Xenothreat.
Yep.
Threatening up my Xenos.
Anti-alien terrorists. But what were you saying, call sign?
One thing for some reason I had not picked up on it in the past that I just recently realized I hadn't paid attention to is the fact that apparently the Banu only live for 30 years.
Yeah,
They're
they're
relatively short lived.
yeah,
which
they're not
I think is going to make
great.
Go ahead.
No, they're not great with the living thing. That's it. They're not great with the living. I was slurring words. Sorry.
I just think that I didn't realize that, and once I kind of started wrapping my brain around that, I think that's going to make for some interesting gameplay
that is.
because you're not meeting old knowledge Banu that often, which to me means that those are going to be the brains to pick if you can.
Well, and also too, a lot of times in science fiction, we see a lot of the mentality that let's say we've got other intelligent races out there, and a lot of this kind of came around with the D&D, and that really kind of rose up. And again, this idea of role-playing games to where you've got all these other characters. Oh, and humans are in the mix too, and humans seem to fall into this role of you're either kind of generically average or you're just bad. You're worse.
You're either middle or you're the weakest.
Yeah,
as a human.
in comparison, and that kind of kept along as more science fiction stuff came along. I mean, look at Mass Effect, where it's you do have the Solarians, which I think are somewhat similar. They've got a 30-year time span or something like that, and then that's it. Your body stops functioning here. But even still, like most other races live about as long as humans, and then you got the Asari who live for 1,000 years. And again, kind of falling into that. Humans are kind of sort of average, slightly less though. So it is interesting seeing just different comparisons. Heck, maybe they experience time differently, like just from their perspective. Maybe everything is a lot faster for them, or comparatively a lot slower for them. So that 30 years is like 300 to them.
Yeah,
that'd be an interesting thing.
Speaking of more alien lore stuff, so the whole Alien Week is in-universe event versus, and on June 12th of 2438, nav jumper Vernon Tarr encountered a fugitive in the outer reaches of the Davian system. Thinking that it was a human rival explorer, he made, like, this ship was a first contact with the Banu, and he thought it was a rival human explorer, so he just shot him down. But it turned out to be a fugitive Banu, and the Banu were like, "Oh, cool! You guys killed the criminal for us. Thanks." That was it. So it's a commemorative holiday.
Yeah, did it for you. Yeah, right. What the fuck?
And the nav jumper guy, like, it's just some random human. He's not part of any group or any affiliation either.
Well,
so
but they're just like, "Oh, congratulations! Hi, welcome! You get a great favor." He's like, "Yeah, happy to." Yeah, who the fuck are these guys?
Who the fuck shot this guy too? Like, they don't know either. But Tar transmitted his coordinates after realizing it was a alien ship to the then United Nations of Earth instead of the United Earth Empire. And obviously a delegation was formed and everything went fine. Because now every anniversary you have Alien Week. First Contact Day and all. Kind of like in Star Trek. But less peaceful. Yet also more peaceful.
Well, now we got Xenothreat going around trying to stop me from having my alien harems. I mean, what?
Xenothreat in game and in universe is a anti-alien terrorist organization. We don't want you affiliating with those Xeno scum, so we're going to kill you and the alien.
I mean, they literally see the UEE as being, I mean, to be very blunt here, and for those who might have sensitivities, please cover your ears for the next 10 seconds. They see the UEE and anyone who follows our system as race traitors. That's pretty much their whole shtick. Humans are they're like Cerberus from Mass Effect. Humans first, everyone else, fuck you. Not nice people. Go figure.
They see anyone that affiliates or interacts with aliens as like corrupt humans and put down.
Like, not even like affiliation, just like literally like a I would not be surprised if way down the line here we literally get like there's some mission gets kicked off and we get footage of this Xenothreat just like attacking a station and it's like, oh, there's an alien, blam! Oh, there's an alien, blam! And just executing them just on the spot. Would not be surprised.
I just had a thought, which is I wonder if CIG is planning to have alternate extremists in the sense of, nowadays you've got in the real world, you've got, the extreme right groups, and then there's also the extreme left groups that are, they're when they're near each other, there's clashes going. So I just wonder if you're going to have Xenothreat, is CIG planning on having some kind of counterbalance, AI specific group that is intermixed in the verse, so that you have that potential to see, that it's not the UEE.
It's not one-sided.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I think that's I never even thought about that, but I think that's a very well thought out thing, and it would make it like don't make these groups super huge. You know, okay, maybe in like one system they, or you know, or like two or three systems right next to each other, they have a presence, and that's pretty much it. But no, that makes total sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, seriously asking that as a question. Like, I
haven't heard anything.
because I mean, it makes sense that they're already going to have gangs that are fighting over turf and control of resource management. So if you were to have and that kind of makes sense, because that's like business and turf wars. But when it comes to something like Xenothreat, that's more of an ideological problem. Makes sense to have a counterbalance group that, like Cam said, that neither one of them is very strong, but since they're both kind of geared facing each other, they would be in constant conflict, and you would have that opportunity to kind of find those fault lines between them and navigate between that, or you can choose to go one side or the other. Right. But more gameplay. But it'd be interesting to that you might be in a bar somewhere and you hear if you're on one system or one planet, one moon, you hear one type of talk from the local the local idiots at the bar, but then you jump over to the other moon and you start hearing the counterbalance to it, and depending on which one makes sense to you might inform you as to what your next actions are going to be, rather than just having this one-sided, that group is bad mentality throughout the game. Anyways, just an idea.
Interesting idea.
Makes sense. Hope they do it. Because then that's what makes the universe feel realistic. At least it's not, obviously we don't want a fully realistic universe because that's going to kind of suck for many reasons. But if you just have a faction that essentially falls into the we're generic bad guys, and we run around and twirl our evil mustaches while kicking puppies because we like kicking puppies. It's like, sure, you're going to have some people like that, just as we've seen in the community. You have plenty of very vocal people who want to just be murder hobos. And it's like, sure, that's absolutely fine. If that's how you want to play, all right. But most players are going to avoid you and fight you. And most NPC organizations would as well, because it's even your criminal ones like Ninetales. Yeah, we're seeing now Ninetales is at least somewhat organized. They aren't going to want someone who's going around murdering dozens, hundreds, thousands of people and bringing heat down on them. They're going to say, hey, you're not fucking welcome here. And if you really piss us off, we'll kill you and for the bounty on your head and turn you in just to get some cookie points here.
Yeah, it's bad for business.
Yup. But we'll see how that all plays out.
Also, with Alien Week, we also got the Alien Ships poster contest, a Do You Banu, essentially like a Banu speaking contest. Also, we got the Inside Star Citizen for the Banu Merchantman already, and they did a Star Citizen Live last week where this was a concepting alien doodles or something like that. I didn't watch it.
It was just drawing that one character.
That's on the second thumbnail. Okay.
The thumbnail, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that I figured as much. So I'm like, I'll catch like a rerun of it or something. Yeah, it's interesting lore stuff, but in game wise, if you're looking for anything cool in game, the only in game items for Alien Week, new skins on the RSI website, which are on the screen right now, and the alien ships themselves. But that's really it. There's nothing special going on. There's just lore stuff and lore, which is good. I like the lore stuff, but it's not for everyone.
you're into the lore and even specifically the alien stuff, I think Paul Shelley, Astropub, has some really good videos that where
Definitely.
he actually dives in specifically to the different alien types and goes over history, their history, but he also does a good job of talking about not only their history, but then the interaction between
our
humans
history
and
with them.
Yeah. And helps to explain a little bit better, I think, than CIG has done about how the different alien races view. I think that's informative because as a player, you know, you're going to want to know kind of where you stand or how humans are viewed before you start trying to interact with them.
Yeah, you want to know how you
that'll be
stand with them,
beneficial.
and you want to know how they stand with you, or with humans in general. And he does a really good job of it. It's like, I think the longest one of the videos he's made is like an hour, like a little over an hour or so, and it's great because you can just have them on in the background while doing something else, like playing Star Citizen. So you don't have to it's not something you have to actually watch the screen. You can just listen to it in the background and actually get some really good Star Citizen lore dumps.
Yeah. Having listened to one of his things a little while ago, he got me thinking about the Kurthok, which we haven't really heard anything about.
No.
But he postulates that he thinks that might be an AI, and that's why the Xi'an do not want us to communicate with them because he thinks that they actually created it by accident, and they don't want humans to interact with the Kurthok because then they're scared that essentially we will share ideas and get ideas from the Kurthok, which will be
because they're actually afraid of the Kurthok themselves, and like they were enemies. They had a war, and I think at worst we've had a cold war with the Xi'an, but we're allies now.
Well, one of the things that is in lore is that the Kurthok was able to actually kill the whole Emperor line of the Xi'an across multiple systems. Every single one of the hits was coordinated within seconds of each other. And, you know, story-wise, you're just kind of like, yeah, okay, that sounds...
Logistically, though, that's scary.
But if you kind of like dive into it game-wise, you think about the logistics. Imagine just the Stanton system in coordinating that, you know, you have multiple killers all in exactly the right spot to make the hit, and every single hit is carried out within seconds. Like the logistical coordination of that would be insane, and that's partly why the theory is that they are an AI in the sense that they have that coordination capability, being AI. But you know, you look at what they did, like they effectively decapitated the Xi'an, but then they didn't continue. They drew back and just went, you know, leave us the fuck alone, or we'll do that again. I thought was kind of interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to go
Actually,
on.
we've only heard about warning shots from this. Anything about them?
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, supposedly the humans tried to send a delegation out to try and find them, and
we got shanked.
The Xi'an basically caught the delegation. Was like, yeah, no, you can't go, and we're going to hold you hostage until your government concedes to a bunch of our demands, and then we'll hand you back. And one of the demands, humans basically hand over all star charts of all human systems.
Fuck no.
Well, we did it.
Yeah, well, we're fucking idiots.
Yep.
Hi, here's my back door. Here's where I hide the key.
Here's the
yeah,
rug that
my
it goes
secret-
under.
Feel free to log in anytime you like.
Password
wanna
is
come in and
1,
fuck my
2,
wife?
3, 4, 5.
But yeah, so like I said, some interesting stuff in there if you know how to dig in and dive for it yourself, or you can listen to some of the Astropub stuff and he covers that kind of stuff. So, good reads. Anywho,
We also got some updates on the Scorpius. Well, Scorpius and the Liberator, as well as the Mule. Just because they want to, essentially flex the new ships. Understandably so.
By now.
Pretty much.
so tech tip, I heard that some people are having problems flying the Scorpius when they get into dogfights and they lose a wing, and several wings. Supposedly, if you store the wings back into their like
Hold up.
fold up mode, supposedly you can still steer your ship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the latest thing.
good stuff.
Here's a question for you. I have an opinion on it, but I'd like to get you guys' input.
Mhm.
Do you think that as you lose pieces of your ship, you should lose controllability in some aspects?
Depends on the
Depends
pieces.
on what parts of the ship and if there's thrusters allocated on said part of the ship.
And
And
are
if
you
you're in
talking
atmosphere
space,
or in
are you
space.
talking-
I'm
Are you
talking
talking
specifically in
space or
space.
atmosphere?
Atmo should have an impact regardless because of
Right.
the way the air flows over the frame. But I'm generally speaking, or this question is specifically about space combat.
I mean, oh, go on.
Just my 2 cents is it shouldn't. It depends on what part of the ship that you lose, in the sense that, think if it's like something like just a wing, no, it shouldn't have an effect. But if it's, of course, if it's a thruster, yes. But if it's a large chunk of mass, that should have an effect on how your ship flies. If I'm making sense there. So like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
take a Connie,
agree.
for example. If you lose an engine nacelle, that should affect how your ship flies, because it's a huge chunk of mass, that was 4 chunks. Now you took one out, the thing is off equilibrium. But then let's say you lose the corresponding lateral nacelle, then maybe it starts to actually behave normally again. Maybe not as effectively, but because it's kind of counterbalanced in a sense, you get a little bit of that maneuverability back again. You lose the third one, now you're totally fucked. Like that's the kind of concept that I have for it. But if it's like a wing, like a warden losing a wing, I don't think should have any effect on it in space. But that's just me.
Well,
I'm done.
The reason I asked the question is because I don't know if CIG is doing this, but I'm pretty sure they are. The mass of the ship is based off of the pieces that it's built off of. So even something as small, I say as small, these wings on most of the ships are actually quite large.
Right.
Even something like losing a wing is going to change the center of gravity of your ship because that bit of mass is no longer attached. So in reality, it should affect the handling some ways because your thrust is not going to be on your center anymore. So all the handling of the ship should be altered, maybe not significantly, but it should be different.
But
I was just
question,
curious whether you think that should be a thing in game, or it should just be hand wavium. This is the way it works, and don't worry about it.
well, question to insert there. I'm not
Mhm.
disagreeing with anything you're saying, but when you say that CIG is basically calculating the mass based off the components, that makes sense to me. But what we don't know if they're doing is where that mass is placed in the model. If I'm making sense there.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to say, okay, here's a list of all the parts on your ship, and at the bottom, your sum total mass is this. So if you lose if the calculation is done and that you just minus that component off and change the way that the ship flies, that to me, that's the hand wavium way to do it. The hard way to do it, but the realistic way would be to not only say, okay, what is that component's mass, but where on the ship is that thing located? If I remove that chunk of mass off of that ship in that location, how does that affect how the thrusters all have to fire to counterbalance that missing chunk of mass? That would be the way I'd like to see them do it. But I don't know if they're doing that or not, is what I was proposing. Am I making sense?
Yeah. Based
Okay.
on my experience, I want to say that they are. So if you
Okay.
lose a wing on your top right side, it literally removes the mass of that wing from the top right side of the ship. So it's going
And
to
you start to
affect the
see
way
that
you steer. Yeah.
that model
But
behavior.
I'm not 100% sure, but anyone saying that their ship is becoming unflyable because they lose a wing when they're out using the Scorpius, I'm assuming they're not losing the entire wing where the thrusters attached. So that would make sense that it's because your the center of thrust is offset now because you're missing part of the mass that would make the ship balanced if it was all there. But it's something I'll have to test because I'm just spitballing from my experience with other ships.
I think too that, let's say if you had something like let's say a Vanguard, and you go and you lose a wing. Now, realistically, at least from what I've seen, many ships have weapon hardpoints on wings, but usually not too many thruster hardpoints, or whether it's maneuvering thrusters, main thrusters, etc., on the wings here. So that would be one thing. So if you lose a wing, and there's no thrusters on there, if you're in Atmo, yeah, that's going to affect you because aerodynamics. If you're in space, it really shouldn't affect you at all unless you're in some kind of environment to where the wing either being there or not being there would or would not be hitting things. If you're hitting things with your ship, you have bigger problems. But let's go and say for a ship that does have thrusters on the wings, and you lose one. Okay, now you do not have full functionality of the ship. But at least, and I know right now where we're at, we're not nearly at full product yet. There's still a lot of work to go. Because right now, I know with a lot of ships, you go and you lose a wing, you're just spinning. Sure, you've got 95, or you've got more than half of your thrusters available to you. And realistically, it's like, okay, let's say if I lost a wing and all of my left side vertical thrusters are gone, so now I can't go and spin clockwise. Okay, it's like, okay, if I try to spin clockwise, it should just either the ship should kind of wiggle or just do nothing. I get like sparks. But if I try to rotate counterclockwise, I should have no fucking problem. Or like if I lose my left side main thruster, realistically, if you just try to accelerate blindly forward, you're going to be spinning in circles. It's like rowing a boat with one oar. You're going nowhere fast. But there should be a way to go and be able to tell the ship, hey, go and counterbalance this to the best ability of the remaining parts here to get you going. You might not be dogfighting, you might not be going and finishing your fight with style here, but you're going, as opposed to right now, like if you're in the Talon and you lose a wing, you're just screwed. You're just gonna sit there spinning until you finally just eject from the ship. And
You just made me think of an idea, which is maybe they should have the ability to have essentially like a flight computer setting that you can hit when you're in certain situation. When you, the pilot, gets to determine when you're gonna, when you switch to that mode, but essentially have like a safe flight mode for your computer, for your onboard computer system, that essentially it puts all your thrusters into that kind of like a mode where it says, okay, I'm no longer trying to do high performance. All I'm trying to do is counterbalance whatever the input I'm given. You know,
Just
I
even
try
it
and
out.
keep that
Get
in
me A to B here.
best I can, kind of a
Yeah.
mode.
Yeah, no, I do, and maybe once we do have flight computers being an actual physicalized component tied
Yeah.
into stuff, maybe we will have that.
Yeah.
and that'd be something I would really like, because then it's like, hey, you just got fucked up in a fight, but you won, or you managed to get away, and you'd have the thing where I'm limping my ship back into port here. It's where I've got one main thruster cut down to 20% of its thrust power here to go and provide the same amount of thrust the rest of my thrusters were giving. All of them kind of balanced here, so I'm moving slow, but I'm moving generally in the right direction here.
Yeah, you're only doing straight lines and like coming to a dead stop, reorienting,
Reposition. Yeah,
and then go straight again, kind of a thing. Yeah, I'd be down with that.
no, I like that. And then it's like, too, hey, I just lost parts of my ship. Okay, now it's time for me to bug out, because I know I'm at best going to just be limping around. Time to get the fuck out of here, or
Yeah.
abandon ship.
Yeah, it's another risk reward calculator.
Yeah. Too many risks, too many rewards, or not enough rewards.
But yeah, back to Data's original question. I'm all for it. Your vehicle mass and location of those different components and their mass interaction with each other having an effect on your damage state. Absolutely.
Right, let's do it.
Yeah, because the whole idea is you don't want to get hit in the first place. So
Yeah, well, the other thing is I don't want that kind of hand wavy model that just says, "Oh, you just lost 45 pounds." I'm just picking a random number here, but you just lost. I won't even use pounds. You just lost 25% of your mass. Now the ship will fly this way. Like I don't like that, because to me it makes it too standardized, in the sense that now you got dogfighters who get used to flying in that specific mode, and they just get good at that. Whereas if your model actually is designed that the thrusters have to figure out how to change with random chunks taken off the ship in different locations, and the flight model models that, now every time you are damaged, you're going to get different behaviors, which means there's no way to or it's a lot harder to become an expert, air quotes around that word, an expert at flying in that mode. And again, it goes back to that risk reward, which is an experienced combat pilot will realize, like, I'm now in this state. I probably need to withdraw, to fight another day. Whereas, a less experienced pilot might still think, oh, it's just a little bit of a problem. I can go, I can keep going. So it's just, yeah, I want the more realistic model myself.
Yeah.
I'll shut up.
Oh no, I agree. So,
does that include the Gatorade bottle sitting in the cockpit for those long flights?
those electrolytes for the
Actually, God, who are they? Soul Citizens is another podcast, Star Citizen podcast that's fairly popular out there nowadays. They just had a recent episode where they talked about food and water and stuff. It was mainly geared towards what are going to be the benefits and negative side effects of the different types. But one of the questions that got brought up on that episode was, you're going to need to eventually. It seems like CIG is saying that you're going to need to stock up on these items in your
before you head
ships
out.
before you head out. And the question that was brought up involving that idea was, are these items going to have mass that you would need to take into account when loading your ship and where that mass is placed? So it's kind of interesting that Data brought up that question, because it seems like he's not the only one who's thinking about that recently.
So my answer to that question would be, I hope so.
Yeah.
If you're bringing any type of cargo onto your ship that's bulk sized, then I think it should have an effect. Now, if it's going to calculate where the mass is in the ship, I don't think it's going to count that for like rotation speed and things, because right now it does. If take a Carrack for example, it's the fan blade principle, where like the fan blade, when it's spinning around at the center, it's spinning very slow, but on the outside it's spinning incredibly fast.
Yes.
So for someone that's in the cockpit of the Carrack, if you're rotating the ship around, you're pulling what, like 2 or 3 Gs at full rotation speed if you're in the
Something like that.
cockpit, just because you're that far away from the center of mass. So that's a little bit
Yeah,
hand
it's like
wavy.
rolling.
Yeah, that's a little bit that I'm okay with that, because I don't think a lot of people would be able to adjust to the fact that they're going to black out if they spin the ship too fast on a
Here's my
rotational
take.
basis.
Sorry, you're cutting out. I thought you were done. My bad.
No, so I guess my point was that I'm okay if they don't try to simulate the location of the mass in the ship affecting like your center of gravity, because like if you had a bunch of mass that's in the back of the ship, it would effectively change the center of rotation if they're simulating it correctly. But I'm okay if they don't go that deep. But I hope that the mass does have an effect on the weight of the ship overall.
So
Yeah.
here's my take. And this is coming from a military background where I actually had to go through a load planning school, which is where you learn how to take all your different components that you want to load, let's say on a C-130, and figure out what their different masses are, and then how you need to put that into the plane so that it actually stays balanced.
Yeah.
And then, basically create this load plan, and you check all these boxes and do all these reference checks to other manuals. And then when you actually show up at the airport, you hand your load plan over to the Air Force, and the Air Force looks at it, goes, yep, nope, yep. And then, you adjust from there. One thing that all aviation manufacturers take into account is there's a general zone that accounts for how much fuel and cargo you can put on the plane before you start to affect its capabilities. So to me, in Star Citizen, I would be perfectly okay if each ship had that zone that the player knew about, that essentially you could load, let's say it's I'm just picking random numbers here, but let's say it's, you have a 500-pound limit. And so anything you throw in there, whether it's personal body armors, weapons, ammunition, foodstuffs, blah, 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 as long as you keep it, essentially your ship doesn't have any impact to those added items. But if you go beyond that zone, then it starts to calculate, that mass differential, and maybe starts to make minor percentage adjustments to the thruster effectiveness. That would make sense to me. But I also would say that there would definitely need to be different categories of it, because if you're loading up a Gladius, maybe there's a very small window of what it can carry because it's designed for that very peak high performance capability. So you can only carry one armor and one gun and some limited ammo and a couple MREs and a bottle of water. I don't know. But then you get up to like the A2 Hercules, you know, it's intended to put tanks on board. Like it should automatically calculate and adjust for that up to, you know, in ludicrous size capabilities. So it would kind of be I guess, a 2-tier system in the sense that each ship is a certain amount, and depending on what the ship's designed for, what that amount capability would be, if I'm making sense there.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I want that simulator aspect of the game. So. But they also do need to make it fun. But obviously, you know, part of that fun in this context, it's really like with the amount of, with the size and power of some of these ships, you'd really, really have to make it where you can't fly because you've overloaded the amount of weight on the ship. What are you doing that you're?
Yeah.
And I think too, one of the biggest aspects, and this is something that a lot of people, especially coming into Star Citizen, have run into problems with, is making things apparent, having multiple signs that something is wrong or something is not correct, something is not functioning as it would normally here to the player. Because I mean, as it is, how many times do we still to this day, you're out flying, you're in a fight, and from your perspective you just suddenly explode, not realizing that, oh well, you actually had A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, G, H, I wrong with your ship, but that information wasn't really being relayed to you in any discernible manner, and so to your perspective, you just randomly fucking died. Yeah, and people will go, "Oh, that's a bug."
Sorry. I'd be okay with them having like maybe a pop-up window on like whatever the most central MFD you have in your cockpit. So like, you know, you hit your engines on, and maybe part of the startup sequence is that the computer does a calculation, and if you're outside of that, you know, load tolerance for that specific ship, maybe it pops up a little window on the MFD that says, hey, you know, an initial startup calculation says that you know, you're going to be overpowering these, you know, your rear left thruster because you've loaded everything in the back corner of your cutlass, you know, or something like that. Like, you know, and it's just a interactive button that you need to at least acknowledge and click on. That would be enough that if you want to figure more out, it has a tree that lets you start clicking around, you know, to find out exactly what the problem is or how you can alleviate that. But if you're just in a like, I got to get the F out of here, you know, you can hit, yep, I recognize that you said there's a problem, but we're going anyways, kind of a mode.
Yep. You're like, hey, we're being shot at. We don't really care. We're overbalanced. We're fucking going.
Yeah. But that would be a way to, you know, and it allows every, you know, whether it's a new player or an old timer, you know, getting into a different type of ship, or, you know, maybe you just recently upgraded or something. But it allows everyone to have that knowledge that you're talking about. Because I think that's very important. What you brought up is how to communicate these different nuances of the game to everyone, but without being, you know, inhibitive of gameplay.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I do like the idea, or even like one thing I was thinking when you were talking about like having a pop up on your MFD, is that when, you know, with right now modern day, if you go and take off in like a vehicle, you know, like an aircraft, helicopter, whatever, you have to do like a pre-flight check kind of thing. Now, obviously, we don't want to be like, okay, I'm ready to fly. Let me go and take 20, 30 minutes now to do my pre-flight check. No, at that point, you're pulling people out of the game and making what should be playing into a chore. And that would be bad. But I do like the idea of, like, for example, making it so if there are issues, you know, like you just have like a status sheet you can pull up. So think of it like when you see your MFD and it shows like, oh, your ship is like either green, orange, red, or black, meaning the part's just gone, it's been shot off kind of thing. Just a more detailed version of that you could go through, like just in your Mobi or something, or you could pull out a slate if you didn't have one, whatever. You can pull it up on an MFD if you want to fiddle with it. And then you can just go and get a much more detailed status of your ship. How's your fuel looking? How far can you go, and at what's your maximum range and what's your maximum speed given your fuel and components here? What's your maximum power load? Are you overbalanced in cargo? If so, in what ways? How is that? We're showing like normally unloaded, your ship has a max range of X light years or whatever. Now that you've fully loaded your C2 Hercules, it now has, and then it would like cross that out in a red line, and now it shows your new max distance is blah. So it's showing, okay, here's what it should be, here's what it is, and maybe you can see why. Oh, it's because I've got 500 SCU of shit loaded on here. Well, that makes sense then, doesn't it?
Yeah, you could have you could just have a little schematic, a little top-down view of your ship, and it just shows where the items are that you have loaded, and maybe those different, like, I'm just picturing very basic, like little building block, so you have a little SKU block, and maybe it's shaded green, means that it's in a zone where its weight and mass are not having a problem with a ship. But then you look a little further out on the schematic, and oh, here's a SKU box that's shaded orange, and that's telling me, once you click on it, that gives you a little more information, and it's telling you, well, this thing for its mass is loaded in a spot where it's starting to inhibit how you perform, but it also have that schematic be interactive in a sense that you could maybe click on that box and move it over to another slot, and if it's an empty slot, it just pops it there and recalculates. But if it's another full spot, maybe it swaps positions, and then you get to see how those two, being in different spots, suddenly everything's green, or now you have two orange boxes, and you're like, fuck, and then you're playing your little mini game of Tetris, but at the same time, you have that quick knowledge of kind of like, have I placed my stuff in the right spots?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Or when you're loading, have that be your loading process. You go in your Mobi and you say, yeah, I want to list these, you just bought from the kiosk. Like as you're sending the kiosk to your ship, that's where you get that load interaction that shows you, like, well, for this item, I need it placed over here. Like, so part of your purchasing process is that cargo loading to make sure that you're loading in the right place, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah. I think we're definitely nuking the cargo refactor. They need to listen to us.
Yes. And give us lots of money, or at least new ships.
Yeah.
Since we're dreaming.
Have it deliver.
But yeah, I mean, that's what the military uses right now. Is like when I went through my load planner school, I was right at the transition where they made us do everything by paper, which is like you walk into the class and there's literally a 4-foot sitting on your desk, and they're like, yes, you have to learn how to go through each one of these different manuals, because there's like a different manual for each service and how they do things differently, and you have to be able to cross-reference everything depending on the aircraft that you're using and who runs that aircraft and how they run it. And you're just like, holy fucktards, Batman! Like the amount of shit paperwork that you got to go through just to load a box of ammunition is insane. But at the end of that course, they said, "Hey, we've just started started creating a computer program to do this. We're going to give you guys basically like a week-long intro into how to utilize this thing." And it was essentially take all those books and just wipe them off your desk sit down at this, and you literally just dragged and dropped the items into your little schematic, and the computer went, yep, little green thumbs ups for everything that was right, bright red caution for what was wrong. So, we're using it real world. It would totally make sense to have that capability.
Yeah.
But anyways,
But we'll
I know I'm
see what they
boring
do.
people now.
I blame Canada.
Listen to my war stories.
I'm trying to delete all these stupid. Apparently, we had a bot in the chat. Also advertising sex something.
We missed it. Jeez.
That human activity. Oh no! As you said that, Cam, and it just came back. Damn it!
Jeez.
What's going on with the racing data?
Last race was the Stanton 7, and it was pretty bad. pretty bad.
Because
we were using hover quads on the river. Well, the river was just like the first third of the race, but I think 3/4 of the field died before they ever got off the river because, well, in my case, I was doing pretty good trying to avoid all the other people and got taken out by somebody who just didn't have enough experience.
Those bastards.
Yeah, but it was a mess. GrabLab is not in a good place right now, especially not for trying to be competitive with it. So it ended up the way I was hoping it wouldn't, but was expecting it would.
Crash fest.
Yeah, it was a mess.
Growing pains.
Yep. This coming weekend is XGR's next race in 0G, which is going to be really interesting. I don't expect to win. I'll be happy if I can just finish. Honestly, I'm not that great a 0G pilot, but...
Is that the Green Hex course?
No, this one is around Hurston, the spaceport around Hurston. Was it Tressler?
Okay.
Everest Harbor.
Everest Harbor, right.
Gotcha. Have you heard the racing community talking any more about what CIG was saying? The community team was saying about trying to create more race-friendly community?
So I have it from an inside source that says that there are some really amazing maybe tools is not the right word, but there's some really amazing stuff coming for, I think, racers in the next patch, but they're not allowed to tell me what they are. They just gave me a little tease.
Are you talking about tools to create
I don't know.
courses?
They were very vague because they're Evocati and they're not allowed to get off.
Okay, so next patch in 3.17.
Yeah, but they said that for racing, there's some really amazing things that the XGR community is going to be really excited about when we find out about it. So just have to wait and see.
Should we talk about that, by the way? The 3.17. It's in Evocati now.
I know absolutely nothing about it, so if you'd like
Nothing?
to share what you know. No, not really anything. I haven't been keeping track of patches.
Some pretty, for a point X patch, there's some pretty big stuff in there.
Yeah.
Illegal delivery missions.
You can't think of this as a point patch like we would normally expect, though. This is your typical full-fledged patch. It's just staying within.
They just renamed it.
Yes.
Yeah,
they
just renamed it so that people wouldn't freak, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I don't.
For where we're at, I'm fine with it.
Honestly, I'd rather them undersell and overdeliver than the other way. That works. I just funny because I'm so used to point X patches being really minute and minuscule in content, and now we're getting some pretty good stuff in this patch. We're getting the Ninetales mission, obviously. That's the big one. The Siege of Orison. Ninetales mission around Orison. We're getting Derelict Reclaimer space missions. We're getting derelict reclaimer settlement points of interest. AI planetary navigation, the nav mesh testing around said settlements. The Siege of
So
Orson,
those are the
illegal.
colonial outposts you're talking about?
Yes.
Nice.
But they're derelict ones. Like they've looked like they've been nuked, essentially.
Yeah, but they're coming in the Stanton system, which that's
Correct.
A big deal.
Around Microtech, I want to say. I may be wrong on that, but I think it was Microtech.
Is that going to be part of the new Lagrange points they're adding around Microtech?
Yeah. But yeah, and they're going to have NPCs as part of those derelict settlements. Obviously, illegal delivery missions, Siege of Orson, and it's insane. Like, okay, we're getting some pretty big stuff. Like, I'm excited for the Reclaimer X and the Colonial Outpost stuff. Just the AI on the planetary surface and Orson, the Siege of Orson stuff. Already played that too.
Is the AI nav mesh on the ground? Is that in?
It's coming with one of the
believe so.
outposts.
Okay.
This is going to be for ships, is it not?
No, I think it's for the planet. At least that's what it's saying.
Oh,
Yeah, it's so that the
planetary
AI
traversal?
can actually get off the ship and go like to the
Well,
bunk.
I think they're all because they want to have the first version of one of these settlements. The way I heard it is there's going to be like a Cutlass deal or some ship that's going to drop off enemy reinforcements onto the ground.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Is they've already got, from what I understand, is they already have a tier 0 version of the AI navigating in the ship. But what they don't have is once that AI steps off the ship, how it can navigate itself to, the front door of bunker X or building Y. And so my understanding is that's what the AI mesh, this next AI mesh intro is supposed to be specific, is getting the AI able to walk across the planetary surface.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, see, I'm looking back at the announcement. It's, Siege of Orson, added Derelict Reclaimers version 1, Derelict Colonial Outposts, AI planetary navigation tech, the nav mesh tech for the AI to walk on the surface, adding illegal collect and delivery missions, new Grey Cat salvage backpack, new RSI specialist heavy armor and variant, rest stop hangar edition, Grimhex hospital expansion, many bug fixes, several ship rebalances. This is all for 3.17.2, according to one of the Evocati leaked. Like someone leaked the patch note of one of the Evocati builds. Now on the screen.
Lives.
On the fucking bot reappeared.
Body?
It's not even posting any links. It's just constantly putting
Like
whatever.
spam?
What?
I haven't even taken a look at it.
You look in our chat. It's just the same little bot thing over.
It's looking for friends.
Looking for
Oh.
friends. It sensed another AI was
Describe
here.
your love life using a Star Wars quote. I'm looking for love in Alderaan places. So I suppose that's not really a quote, but fuck
No.
it.
What's sad is that's one of the better ones Cam's come up with.
It is.
I take no credit for this. I found it on the internet. As with many things, where'd you get that? Internet?
At least you didn't get a book for your birthday saying 365 dad jokes, one dad joke a day.
Oof.
The fact that I don't know what's worse, the fact that was my birthday gift, or that book was made in the first place.
Wait, that was your only birthday gift?
Yes, no.
Please tell me you got more than that.
Alright, but I'm looking at the patch notes. I have them on the screen too, but essentially Let's see, known issues. Spaceport elevators leaving HAB may not respond. Nothing new there. Lagrange point easy HAB elevators have another elevator on a different style inside of them. Combat AI, FPS NPCs rubber banding. Shopping and selling, search bar. Search bar does not allow players to search by keyword or specific item names. Forces players to search for general item types. So in other words, doesn't work. Miscall A, the extend cargo spindle animation is not complete. A bunch of retrieval and derelict colonial mission bugs. But at least those are new, like added into that build. So. .3.17.2 should be a pretty interesting patch when it goes live. How long do you guys think it's going to be in PT or in Evocati and then PTU?
That's what I heard.
Be the typical, typical length. Couple weeks Evocati, 2 to 3 weeks in PTU.
Yeah, like a month here, a month there, pretty much.
Sorry to cut you off.
Don't know how. No. I'm just thinking. I don't know how accurate it is, but I thought I heard last week, or maybe it was this weekend, that this is going to be the long one. Like this is the one that's going to be 2 to 3 months, possibly.
Well, I mean, a month in Evocati and then a month in PTU is 2 months. So.
No.
They're
saying in Evocati
was going to be the long one.
Evo
like
was going to be the big one. Either way.
Yeah, because they talked about wanting to put things in Evocati for longer.
You're saying that Evocati are testing the persistence patch, not the .2 patch.
Well, right now
they're not the same thing, right? There's
correct.
There's going to be the 17.2 patch, which is basically our next quarter patch, just under the 17 number. And then there's the long-term persistence, or not the long-term, the new inventory storage, so everything stays in the universe patch that they're saying is probably going to be 3 to 6 months of testing in Evocati. So is that what you're saying? That's the long-haul patch? Or
that's the long-haul patch.
And that's what you think is in Evocati right now?
Yes. But I'm not positive on that. So I'm not, I wouldn't be willing to bet on it because this is just rumor right now. Supposedly, Evocati, because what the words. So what the reason I'm saying this is because I've heard several Evocati people say that they don't know how CIG is gonna on this Evocati cycle because it's going to be so long. Like they're saying somebody's going to talk, somebody's going to leak. Like it's unrealistic to keep these NDAs in place for an extended Evocati run. And that's what's making me think that this is the long-term one, just because they're talking about that, if that makes sense.
I can understand that, especially
that argument, but it is interesting to hear.
It is interesting. I mean, I guess you can also argue at what point because the last few Evocati builds and the first few PTU builds are not really that different. So what argument is, like, at what point does it become, like, they just start treating it like a PTU instead of Evocati? But I don't know, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I understand why CIG, has Evocati and why it's set up to run the way it is. Like, it makes sense from their perspective. But I also agree that, like, at a certain point, if you're going to run a test for beyond the normal length, and I mean, you're almost doubling or tripling the normal length time that I'm talking about. CIG does need to kind of go, hey, is this realistic that we expect this to stay under wraps for that amount of time? So I get both sides, I guess is what I'm saying.
Do you think it's unreasonable to expect people to abide by the terms that they agree to?
Only on Tuesdays.
in the normal context that you're bringing that argument, no. In the context of gaming and Star Citizen and how this process is going, yes. Does that make
Fair
sense?
Yeah, I think from CIG's point though, it still makes sense to me because anything that you hear that comes out of Evocati, since it's in Evocati, and you know that they're not supposed to talk about it, means that, I mean, to me, it just means that it's subject to change.
Right.
Yeah.
This is not representative of
whereas
the finished product, even that the players are going to get in the alpha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, because like,
you know,
this
there's
gun's
that
amazing in
subset of
Evocati,
people that-
but then PTU.
There's a subset of there's a subset of people that anytime that they hear any information, they think it's written in stone, and then it's, you know, that's what they're going to get. Evocati is a place where CIG can test things and then change things because they don't work.
It's
or
more
they need to be
malleable.
adjusted. Yeah,
Yeah.
where they don't have to tell the community every time they modify something because the community thinks that what they did at the beginning was what they were going to get.
Yeah, new merchantman. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I guess I'm just thinking of it kind of like, on paper, absolutely that makes sense. But in the real world, I think I would approach it, if I was on the CIG side, I'd approach it like, hey guys, probably somewhere around, month 2, we're gonna probably lose control of keeping a lid on this. So maybe that's when they kind of relax DA to the Evocati group in the sense that they go, okay guys, we've had this in testing, we've got an idea kind of where we're going with this thing. You guys can talk about it. We don't want you to blab about it in the sense of like, run out and create your content shows, but we're also not going to as actively pursue the NDA if it gets broken. I guess I'm probably not making sense of that statement.
I mean,
by that, but
I imagine that Evocati testers would have to talk to each other about it. Otherwise, how do they know what to test?
He's talking about more openly speak with other people, not
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
in the Evocati group.
yeah. So like I said, I think I see it from both sides, and I guess the bottom line, I think CIG is not going to be able to keep a lid on it. If they are expecting to keep a lid on it, I think they'll be disappointed eventually. But like you said, Data, from the legal side of it, it totally makes sense that anyone who signs that should adhere to it for as long as CIG decides it needs to be adhered
It should be
Grand
interesting though to see when it goes to PTU. All the testing for it. Again, it's got the Siege of Orison. There's going to be the Colonial Outpost derelicts and the Flamber derelicts.
I am interested in the Siege of Origin gameplay. I went and kind of browsed through the. I say browsed. I walked around the area, and it looks interesting. I'm curious to see how they.
You can go to the AO
have
right
AI
now.
doing stuff there. Yeah.
It's like a 5-minute shuttle ride. But... Sorry.
Just for Data, if you're interested in seeing, how the missions went, Commander Will and Kate has a video out there that shows how the mission was supposed to go. The AI don't really react too well, but at least it gives you an idea before CIG pulled the mission last patch.
I mean, the AI are like the
It's
same
gonna
AIs
be
in the bunkers. It's
fully-
either they work or they don't.
It's going to be like unrestricted PvP, right? So you can
Yeah.
have roving bands of bad guys running
Yep.
around with players shooting everybody else.
Well, you gotta remember, the second you're in that AO, though, players are gonna have a little triangle over their heads until they become unfriendly.
Yeah, but I just mean that you could be with your friends and just kill everything that moves, regardless.
Yes.
Just for the
Oh,
fun
yeah.
of it.
And I did it solo when I got a chance to play it through that fluke back in May. Never got to finish it because of 30k, but got one of the towers, and yeah, they were actually pretty decent on that server though. I did try to do it on 2 different servers. One server it was atrocious, and I not server. Then the server 30k'd, and at that point I think they patched it out. So. Which is probably why the 30k happened in the first place. And it was really fun. I look forward to doing it with other people, not just. A lot.
Colonial.
Yeah, Colonial Outpost stuff should be fun too, because I didn't know that there's going to be AI there too until I only heard about it I think last night. I'm like, really? Like that's awesome. Like there's going to be AI and there's going to be reinforcements too with the dropships dropping off the AI on the ground to fight you. That's great. And hopefully they can make missions and actual, I guess, random encounter gameplay using those mechanics now.
What else we got?
Oh no, I mean we can talk about the Ben and Merchman again, but really like the actual interior of the ship itself this time. But I mean, honestly, just watch. I just say to anyone listening, watch the Inside Star Citizen video. It's linked in the description. There's no point in us going on about it when they do a really good job, and it's a lot shorter of a video.
Yeah.
Might as well get it from the source. Put the video in the chat too.
Kind of surprised that we're not hearing more about the Vulture. Just because they
did have it, yeah.
They've previously shown a bunch of it in work in progress in the Thursday shows, and then also we got to see it during the Invictus week as an actual enterable ship on the showroom floor. But since then, it seems like they've pretty much gone completely silent about it. So that's making me kind of scratch my head.
I mean, from what I saw on the showroom floor at Invictus or DrakeCon, DefenseCon, it was pretty much done. I mean, at least the model was done. Obviously, the animations relating to doors and such inside were all done, but they're probably like actually working on the ship functionality in flying and everything.
Maybe. I'm just surprised we're not any of these patches as like allowing the letting the Evocati get their hands on it, or Pete to tweak that the modeling like you're talking about.
Well, if I remember correctly, it is slated for 3/18. So
is it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Along with salvage, so we're probably not going to see it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because remember they wanted to get all the ships. Like if a ship has a tied gameplay mechanic, like a gameplay mechanic tied to it that's not in game, they don't want to release it.
Oh, you mean like still, the raft?
What? Like the raft? Yeah. They're not great at it, but they are at least trying. With the Vulture, it'll be nicer for the Reclaimer as well to actually have gameplay. Aside from it's big
my
and
bad,
it flies.
not the raft, the Hull A.
Yeah, that doesn't either. Look, I'm just going off what they said. I agree with you. They're not doing a very good job at it, but
I to be honest, the original statement was just
the original statement
I think
from
it was
3 years ago.
Statement. It was an excuse that they were trying, because you remember this is also that statement at the same time that they were totally reconfiguring to support to focus on Squadron 42, and they were changing up a bunch of their kind of production line. And so I think that was just a BS statement to give an excuse
For why they weren't
why
releasing
we
as
weren't
many
going to be
ships.
seeing stuff. And you know, right after saying that is when they released the Raft. And then, you know, what is this, like last month you get the Hull A, and you're just like, yeah, neither one of these meet that criteria. You know, it's I think that statement was a little disingenuous.
Well, no, they made that
So,
statement like 2 or 3 years ago, and it was kind of true then. But since then, they've released the Raft and Hull A, all these ships that
I thought they
don't
made
have.
that statement just last year when they started the realignment for Squadron 42. Because what's his name? I want to say his name's Josh, but I don't think that's it. He was the one on the show, just been moved up to an overall position to work on Squadron 42, and he was the one who was making the announcements. And since then, we haven't heard anything more out of him. God, I can't think of his name. But anyways,
They may have
I thought they made
reiterated
that
on it,
statement.
but I think it was from a few years ago. Then again, last year it felt like a few years ago, so it's. All I know is that they haven't been following up on that own I guess, mantra of theirs.
I'm gonna try and find it.
Yeah, you see Siege of Orson's part of the gameplay on the roadmap now.
Unless that's what they want you to think.
And if it is,
Canada.
can't go back there.
Who's the CIG dev? I want Paul something. Last name starts with an H.
Not good with the names.
You mean the guy with the like
Face.
face and the ears? That guy?
He's tall. Well, I imagine that he's tall just because he looks like he has a big frame. He looks kind of like I don't want to. How do I say this? To me, he looks like he comes from like Liverpool, England. He's got kind of like an oval but long face. He sometimes has had like a goatee. Oh,
Police
man.
sketch artists we should not be. What he's on the ship team, you said?
I don't know if he's tied into the ship team, but he was part of like the ships, if I remember correctly, like how the guns fire and like that kind of stuff. Like how the like after they've built the ship, he's part of the team that kind of helps tweak the systems to get it to player, you know, to feel like they want it to work.
I don't remember. I'm sure it'll come to me afterwards in like
Yeah.
3 hours from now, and I'll be like, oh.
Might not even be Paul. CIG dev Paul getting different. Anywho, didn't mean to.
Any other Star Citizen stuff?
Sorry?
Any other Star Citizen stuff?
Nope.
Have some non-Star Citizen, like the Duke Nukem movie.
The Nukem?
So apparently, there's a Duke Nukem movie from the Cobra Kai creator, the Netflix show, right? Cobra Kai. Obviously from the Karate Kid spin-off of one of the Karate Kid movies. Yeah, apparently Duke Nukem, the 1990s video game that helped popularize the first-person shooter genre, getting a feature film treatment. Legendary Entertainment, the company behind Dune and Godzilla, the more recent Godzilla film, has picked up the movie rights from Gearbox, with Cobra Kai creators Josh Hield, John Hurwitz, and Hayden Schlossberg on board to produce. Legendary will also produce, as will Julian Baronet from Assassin's... Oh, wow, that's not good. From the Assassin's Creed movie of Marla Studios, which specializes in video game adaptations. Yeah, that's not something to boast about.
What could possibly go wrong?
Launched with the self-titled debut in 1991 from Apogee Software, later called 3D Realms, Nukem is a $1 billion video game franchise that began life as a platform game for personal computers when third game Duke came out in 1996. It became not only a critical hit, but yeah, we all know the history of it. So yeah, they're making a Duke Nukem movie. And it's being made by the people who worked on the Assassin's Creed movie, or at least the studio, and the creators of the Cobra Kai streaming service TV. And obviously, it's being produced by the company that does the Dune and Godzilla movies, Legendary.
Well, since
I don't
we
have
all
high
probably
hopes for this.
expect it to be terrible, maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised.
Look, Legendary has like a weird, iffy, like kind of wishy-washy track record, because some of the Godzilla movies were good, and I heard Dune was good. I have not yet watched it, so I can't say anything else. I've heard it's good.
Dune was a good movie, yeah.
But then you also have, like, when the Godzilla movies they made bombs, they bombed hard. And also, you have the people that made the horrible Assassin's Creed movie. I've watched that, unfortunately. So that does not give me hope for this. And also, Duke Nukem in this day and age, I fear that they would censor it.
Guarantee it.
It'll
be a PG-13 movie.
Duke Nukem PG-13. I don't think the two ever meant.
It's called Dude Nukem.
Found a picture of the guy I'm talking about. I posted in Discord.
Oh, Richard Schreier.
Okay. See, Paul,
I think the FPS guy. He's always very enthusiastic, and like when he talks about stuff, you know he's excited. Yes. Okay.
he's the one who announced that they were gonna go to, only release ships for purpose.
Right.
And he had just gotten elevated to Squadron 42 main tasking.
Yeah, and he was also working on Theaters of War, whenever the hell that's coming, if ever.
Last I heard, that's got squashed. Behind the
Shame
scenes,
too, because that could have been
supposedly behind the scenes, Sony basically said, "Yeah, no, we don't want you. We
Because-
don't want Firesprite working on anything Star Citizen related." And so that's why you see that in like the road tracker, they put a little thing in there that basically said everything that was theater of war had been moved to an in-house team, and then it just went silent from there. So that was basically their way of kind of like closing it off, and they're just not going to discuss it again.
Understood.
Thanks,
Unfortunate.
Sony.
But yeah, so for context, anyone listening who has no idea what we're talking about, so Theaters of War was announced in 2018. Either 2018, 2019, one or the other. At CitizenCon, it's supposed to be this essentially think like Battlefield type, FPS gameplay, competitive, team deathmatch, objective-based team deathmatch gameplay, but in Star Citizen using Star Marine, the FPS module of Star Citizen. And Firesprite was the company that was working with CIG to make it. But Firesprite then got acquired by Sony. Was it last year? 2 years ago? Somewhere around there.
I think it was last year.
I think it was last year, yeah. I remember we covered it, I just don't remember when that was. But they got acquired by Sony, and so we were all wondering what the hell's going to happen with it now. We were hoping that would mean that Theaters of War would be a spin-off game that would be released on PlayStations. This way people can kind of get like dip their toe in the water for Star Citizen stuff, and it would also act as a product for CIG to then revenue off. But it seems that the more realistic outcome came to pass, and now Sony's like, no, you're not doing anything outside of our stuff. Which is funny, considering how all the studios that Microsoft purchased that were making stuff for Sony were like, okay, we're going to finish all the work we decided to do with Sony, but once that stuff is done, then stuff only. So it's interesting that it doesn't go. Whatever. So yeah, it's unfortunate because Theaters of War looked really interesting. Like that was like it was a bit more of an arcade version of Star Citizen. Star Citizen itself is a MMO and a space sim. There's aspects of it that you can't just go in, do some. That's what Star Marine's for. Like the whole just you can die, go into some dogfights, then die, respawn, do the same thing over and over again. Because in Star Citizen, you have to respawn at the hospital, then get your ship back and your gear. It's a whole process versus the more arcade gameplay with other games. Bummer.
But I barely know her.
Speaking of bummers, this Duke Nukem, it's interesting. But when did they plan on actually making?
Never.
Centers around titular anti-hero modeled on certain attributes, action, protagonist, catchphrases, fights alien invasions, travel to strip clubs, blah blah blah, all the usual stuff that you do in games. And it's just literally they're just describing the.
If you think
games.
it's interesting, just look at who they cast as the main character.
I mean, they direct. Who's the? It's over-the-top action movie stylings. It's no surprise that Hollywood has been trying to adapt the game for quite a while. Various indie producers have attempted to develop Nukem, though not got very far. Gearbox had a Nukem project in development at Paramount with John Cena attached to Star over 4 years ago, but that stalled out. That probably might have worked. That led Gearbox to become more deliberate in its Hollywood strategy for adaptations of its video games, and now has one already on deck, Borderlands, directed by Eli Roth, and featuring an all-star cast including Kate Blanchett and Kevin Hart. Lionsgate behind the movie, which is expected to release later in 2022. Counterbalance Trio made. Okay, so did they list who's actually directing? They just said that being helmed, but I guess that's the same. Oh, they're on board to produce, so who's the director? Or they just don't have one listed yet. I mean, the way that what's-your-face have been going, video game adaptations have been going as a last ever. I have no faith in the project. I mean, it might be interesting, but at best.
You're talking about the Duke Nukem?
Yeah, the movie that they're making.
I wouldn't use interesting as my verb. But that's me.
Disaster to be then? I mean, that's really the only other one I can think of.
This is just Hollywood
Oh,
jumping
yeah.
on the bandwagon, and I don't think it's going to do well. It'll probably lose money.
Of course. I mean, you look at
and-
all the other live-action video game adaptations that have come out, and that's my point. Like, this is going to be a disaster in the making. At best, it'll be interesting. You know what will be interesting? When the movie comes out and it's horrible and people are going to use Duke Forever voice lines to make fun of the film.
Yeah,
I mean,
I never understood why Duke Nukem has the fan following it has. At the time that the game came out, it was a good game. It was groundbreaking in many ways. But to say that it's like worthy of the amount of time and attention that it's gotten all the way to this point to make a movie out of it, just to me does not make sense.
Well, that's Hollywood in a nutshell, isn't it? Doesn't make sense.
and yeah, that's kind of the whole thing.
It'd be like making a movie about the original Macintosh computer. Like, was it good in its day? Was it groundbreaking? Absolutely. Comparative nowadays, is it worth a movie? No.
I would argue that
Like,
Duke Nukem is more nonsensical than frickin' Saints Row. Yeah, I don't see a coherent plot being able to be made for this that would work in the style of Duke. Good luck.
Yeah.
Well, that's asking too much. I mean, when has a video game movie ever taken the plot from the video game?
Oh, never. Absolutely never.
And when
I mean,
Doom.
Oh God.
What
If
plot?
I had to choose one of those old school first person shooters from back in the day that might have a plot line, I mean, Castle Wolfenstein.
I was about to say
'Cause at least
Wolfenstein, yeah.
At least you could have some kind of like World War II plot line, in
Yep.
there, kind of a thing. But yeah, like Cam brings up a good one. Doom.
Honestly, I'll say this for Doom. I mean, it definitely wasn't the best of movies here, but I thought that little action sequence where they did it in first person, I thought that was interesting.
No, it was good. Honestly, that film probably would have been better if it was not called Doom.
I mean, really, yeah.
But like that's the thing. Like it was a decent film. It was just a bad Doom film because it had nothing to really do with Doom.
Rip and tear.
Unless, except for that first person segment, which was actually pretty good. And the Assassin's Creed game is just a neutered version of the first game with different characters and a different setting. That movie was. And it wasn't like bad, like it was just laughably bad. Like it was a lot of missed opportunities. This could have been so much better if they actually, like all the action scenes in the Animus, they keep cutting back and forth to modern day and liable to give the viewer whiplash.
Details.
And
Well,
the same
on a
people are
positive
involved
note,
here, so I don't
eventually
have any
we'll
hope.
get a Starfield movie 20 years from now.
Of course he is. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Yeah, and they also mentioned they're doing a Borderlands movie. Obviously, Sony made an Uncharted, and they're working on Jack and Daxter along with frickin' Ghost of Tsushima, the Last of Us TV show on I think HBO, and a bunch of others because that's the thing now is live action video game adaptation. Hollywood has no creativity whatsoever.
Well, fuck it.
And-
Let's start our own club. Let's get a crowdfunding going for a Call of Duty movie. Be
Okay,
a plot in
okay,
there
wait,
somewhere.
Depending, you know what?
Here's-
Depending on which game, I mean, there is an actual plot there, but yeah. It's
Well,
just,
how about
at that point, it's a
Ghost
war movie.
Recon movie?
No, there's too much plot there. We can't do that.
Yeah, really.
And at that point, just do a Tom Clancy movie.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, if you were to think about your average Ghost Recon game, at least the older ones, like I miss especially the Ghost Recon games like Graw and Graw 2, to where it's a shooter. It's not trying to be anything other than a shooter, but hey, here's some semi-futuristic tech we're throwing at you. Hey, here's some kerfluffle you're going into because reasons, and go fight enemies. Oh shit, a tank showed up. Okay, try to go and, dodge your way through rubble trying to avoid it until we can get you some kind of an anti-tank weapon or something. Like, that was interesting shit. It was plausibly realistic.
Well, you got to remember that all those, that whole series, they're based off Tom Clancy, who, how did he start up? Writing books. In other words, creating plot. So that's what feasibility always in those, because they were based off of like, hey, how do we create a plot line to explain this?
Like, imagine, if you will, a Splinter Cell movie. I mean, it would literally be I would say it would be a somewhat grittier, less campy Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Because like Mission Impossible's always had the slight campiness, and it works for it. For what they do, it works for it. But you take down the campiness to just like you more sarcastic quips and less people pulling off a mask, and then you pull off another mask. Surprise! It was me. That kind of shit.
Yeah.
I think
I want to say
if done
that
well,
there
it
was
could be amazing.
already. I want to say that there was already a European show. I think it was Belgium produced, that went for a couple of seasons, that was based off that. I don't think, when I say based off that, I don't mean like they directly said, hey, we're basing this off of Splinter Cell, but essentially they took the idea and just made it, real world, international. So you've got a French operative, a Belgian operative, an English operative, a German operative, making a team, and they're the international, we solve the problems nobody else can solve team. And
Kind of reminds me of Man from U.N.C.L.E.
I think it was on Netflix, or I think it was Netflix that I saw that, and that was years ago, and the show was already probably 5 or 6 years old at that point, so it's been done.
Yeah, or like if you wanted to get like a series based movie going on, Rainbow Six. I mean, literally go off the books, not the games, but go off the books of it, to where, okay, hey, here's a movie about these couple characters. Here's a movie about these other couple characters. Okay, now we're bringing them together into a team, and what are they facing now? How are they growing as a team? Okay, now they're a strong team. Now we're really gonna throw them into it.
With the state that Hollywood is in, I would actually be okay if game studios started making games based off of books, because at least you've got plot and summary, whereas like these Hollywood games are just, there was a movie, let's make a game based off the movie. Like that's already on shaky ground, because the movie is such a condensed like medium of just flash and show without plot.
And even the ones that do have plot, it's you're taking 2 hours and you're now trying to stretch, say, 20 hours of content out of it.
Well, like what games have been made based off of a movie?
Pretty much every superhero movie tie-in game.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
I mean,
Captain America, Spider-Man.
Now, some of those were good.
Well,
Spider-Man 2
okay.
and-
I'm not saying they weren't. I'm just saying they were based off of movies.
Yes.
Are they based off the movie, or are they based on the on the comics?
The movie tie-in games specifically are based on the movie. Like Spider-Man, the
that's fair.
game,
No, that's fair.
Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, both the PlayStation 2
Transformers.
versions and the PS3 and Xbox 360 versions. The different console generation version of that game was a completely separate game to newer gens at the time.
Main reason I said it was just like what based off what you were saying, Cam. I was thinking of the Tom Clancy books, not necessarily the Splinter
Yeah.
Cells and stuff, but like the
Yeah.
original Hunt for Red October and
Right.
those kind of books. Those would actually you could make games out of those.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not going to be bestsellers, but at least there's plot lines to make a game off of. You know?
I mean, you know what? You have a good plot already there. Just put a good gameplay, game mechanics in it, and you could have a bestseller. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, part of the problem of it is with, you take your average decent book, it's not just utter garbage. And especially when you're talking about things that, people say are really good books, like most of the Tom Clancy books, at least that he actually wrote or was involved in. Not necessarily the ones penned under his name now. But you could take any of those. You could take movies and turn them into video games, just as you could take your general video game and turn it into a pretty decent movie, at least based on the universe of, if not necessarily copying the storyline of the game into a live action movie format, if it's done well. And just the problem is that the thought of doing stuff well doesn't even seem to be part of the equation anymore. It's not even, the question isn't even asked, it's just assumed, why the fuck would we ever bother doing it well?
It's just
average is the high bar to shoot for, and
Yes.
we're really just gonna go for whatever we can shit out while squeezing them as much money out of this as possible before we drop it and do the same thing to the next franchise.
Minimal effort for maximum gain.
exactly minimum
You know,
viable product. I
there's-
mean, for the live action movie, the adaptations of video game stuff, it's all like, okay, it has the name of the video game, good, that'll sell. That's what it seems like their thought process of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I can give you an example of one video game that got turned into a TV show that really knocked my socks off, and that's Arcane. That was an exceptionally good show, in my opinion.
Well,
And,
was that a live action movie? Because that was animation, wasn't it?
Well,
yeah,
animation's
true.
fine.
It was animation, but I mean, the story was excellent.
Oh, I didn't mean
The-
to knock it. Video games have been turned into animations very well in the past, but that's the thing. It's like video games becoming animations.
But I mean,
different.
we're talking about story here, right?
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that show does very well is it has a really engaging story, and it's delivered in a very, I don't know, it's just really good overall.
What
really
genre
good.
is it? I'm not familiar with it.
It's based off League of Legends characters, which is funny
Okay.
because you don't think of League of Legends as being something that good content can come out of, but
Yeah.
if you haven't seen it
Okay.
on Netflix, I encourage it. It's pretty good.
I haven't done Netflix in 6 years now, but if I had it, I would check it out.
I watched Netflix recently, like half a year ago, because Spider was on. I haven't watched anything new on Netflix.
Yeah, I quit my subscription 5-6 years ago. I was just tired of
I'm
them
using someone else's
raising the
account.
prices and getting like one good show a year out of them.
Yeah.
Worth watching. It just wasn't.
I'm
cost
part of
effective.
that. I'm part of that one account that the Babylon Bee was reporting on a few weeks ago.
The 5 million member.
Yeah, no, it was like 100 million members or something like that. And it's all the password is password 123 exclamation point.
Look, you had letters, you had numbers, you had a special character. What more do you want in there?
Hey, that's what the military requires for a password, right? It's good enough.
I'd say last I knew, at least, and this was years ago, was at least 15 characters needing upper, lower, special, and numbers. And that was the minimum.
Yeah, I think.
So in other words,
that
like
sounds about right.
Xbox gamer tags as passwords.
Don't give them ideas.
Where it's like 2 lowercase x's, then an uppercase x, and then the name is like a 3 instead of e's, and
Couple underscores in
I
there.
banged your
Exactly.
mom twice with an exclamation mark.
You mean a bang?
the chitty thing.
But anywho,
But yeah, the whole
I think
Duke
I'm
Nukem.
gonna-
Good luck. That's all I'm gonna say to them. Because I doubt it'll
Yeah.
be good. I mean, how many in just this year alone we've had a few. I actually just watched one, but earlier today. I watched Uncharted. It was on like literally someone just uploaded the entire movie in like HD and everything too. Like it wasn't like phone recorded, bootleg footage. It was like someone just had it on a streaming service and just uploaded it to YouTube. I think it's still there. I put the link to it in our Discord. But I watched the movie. It's okay. Let me put it this way. If you called it something else and it didn't use any of the character names from the games, I would be calling it like a decent movie. Nothing like I wouldn't recommend it because I didn't think it was that good to recommend, but it wasn't horrible. But as an Uncharted movie, it's just all respect to Tom Holland doesn't like he's a good actor, but he's not Nathan Drake.
I'm gonna bow out here, guys. I'll see you next week.
All right, see ya.
Don't die.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's probably a good time for me to take my leave.
Oh, I see how it is.
Hey guys, see ya.
Take care. Yeah, I mean, it's just all these video game adaptations. It's just show me the money.
Yep.
You're not gonna get anything good out of it. We do have
All right,
some.
I'm almost gonna head out, so I'll
right.
catch you guys.
Take care.
See
Talk to
ya.
you later.
Don't die.
We do have some non-movie related gaming news.
Nice.
Not any good though. Apparently Ubisoft
Whatever.
is. So, ironically, and well, I can't even say that realistically because, all right, for context, in 2020, in summer of 2020, Ubisoft was getting all these lawsuits. It was revealed that there was a shit ton of sexual misconduct and harassment and abuse at the company, and all this really bad stuff going on. Investigations are still undergoing. Most recently in their, I don't even remember which offices. I think there's, I don't remember. There are more southern offices in the world were most recent victims of this toxic workplace culture. But now, as of Thursday, apparently Ubisoft has issued a statement of support to women and the LGBTQ plus communities because it's Pride Month, so therefore everyone. So yesterday, so technically Wednesday, June 15th, Ubisoft released a statement of support for the LGBT communities and women in response to some employee concern from the possible reversal of Roe v. Wade,
Look,
which
we
is
said the right words on the social media.
yeah.
Now shut the fuck up and keep taking our abuse.
It's essentially just here's a company that makes entertainment who has a streak of being sexist and having a bunch of misconduct going on inside the company. Still ongoing, by the way, according to some reports. But no, it's okay. We're on women's side now because Pride Month.
We made the social media post. Why won't you sit down, shut up, and take the abuse?
The post reads, it's from the Chief People Officer, Anika Grant, and Vice President of Global Diversity and Inclusion, so two of the most famous buzzwords ever in entertainment, right? Most famously used by Disney alone. Rashi Sika and Anika Grant, the Chief People Officer and the Vice President of Global Diversity and Inclusion, put in this thingy-wingy, this
You know, I wonder how
The
just how
PR
much
statement
they figure
reads,
salary is.
was it the health, safety, and well-being of our teams is our top priority. Firm's top priority. Okay. The pair
As
went.
long as they sit down, shut up, and don't see anything, we're happy.
Well, also, I forgot to add, but because of all the sexual misconduct stuff going on at Ubisoft and all the investigations and lawsuits, they've been having a brain drain, a talent drain from the company because of this. Because some of the talent was the perpetrators, and in other cases, the talent was like leaving because they're like, "Fuck this noise, I'm out of here."
Yeah, I'm not going to work here for substandard wages while being abused on the daily. Fuck that.
Yeah. Although I should reiterate, I think a lot of it was actually like the talent themselves were the perpetrators. But apparently the pair went on to acknowledge that the U.S. Supreme Court decision would mean what the U.S. Supreme Court decision would mean for women, trans, and people in their PR statement reading, "At Ubisoft, we believe that women's rights are human rights, trans rights are human rights, and equal rights for all are essential to creating a world where everyone can be their authentic selves and thrive." The statement also noted that the company is celebrating Pride via marches and contributions to local nonprofits advocating for LGBT plus community, for the LGBT plus community. Additionally, the publisher announced on June 17th it will host a benefit livestream for LGBTQ plus youth suicide prevention and crisis intervention organization Trevor Project. Again, it's just a bunch of PR. I'm questioning why GamesIndustry.biz actually made an article on this, but I just find it ironic. I guess that's probably why. I find it ironic that it's coming from a company who's for years now been a perpetrator in sexual misconduct towards women employees. So, yeah, that's some hypocrisy right there, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's not surprising at all.
No, not at all. It's just worth pointing out, I suppose. But on a similar note, which I guess we'll talk more about this next week when we talk about the whole thing with Activision Blizzard and all the updates there and the Diablo Immortal bullshit going on. But I just wanted to bring this up today that apparently 79, to no one's surprise, 79% of the games industry workers support unionization. Now, unionization in the games industry for game developers has been a popular topic for the last few years. Like 5+ years or so now. Like, I'd say more, but like in the last 5+ years or so, it's been very prevalent and for good reason. Because as we're learning with Ubisoft and Riot Games and Insomniac, Sony now, because Sony's got Americanized the company, they got to catch up to all these other corporations like Activision Blizzard with all the misconduct. Bad joke, but fortunately not either. You know, all these companies really, if the workers had unionization, it probably would help them a lot. Especially in the case of QA workers, what's going on with Raven QA and Raven Software, where they're essentially the whole point of them being a QA worker is like, okay, here's a way for you to get paid and possibly become a full member employee. But then they end up getting screwed over the second the game's done or whatever project they're working on gets completed. And
Or like
the unionization would allow them to
one
have
of
that
the,
job security as unions should.
Well, like one of the big fads apparently now is that we'll go and hire like developers on as contractors.
Right.
And they're like, oh yeah, it's going to be like a contract to hire position. We just need to get this one project done, see your work, and if we like your stuff, we'll bring you fully on board the team here.
But then they fire them in a second.
Okay, we've made the game. Cool, you're fired. Get the fuck out.
I mean, like Activision Blizzard in 2019, after a record year of profits, Activision Blizzard fired, what was it, 8% of their employees or something like that. It was 775 employees, something along those lines. I think like almost 800. Like, that's crazy, and it was just so Bobby Kotick can get a bigger paycheck.
Yep.
And that's the thing. This would allow them to have job security. Now, obviously, unions are not foolproof and all good, as you're seeing with the teachers' union bullshit going on over the last 2 years with the pandemic stuff. How they kept schools closed. And yeah, anything, union power of a union But in this context, there is no union, so they need to have a union. Have that job security, and not just be fired by greedy corporate execs every time a game comes out. So they don't get paid for their work, and the execs get more. But as I said, we'll talk more about this next week. Activision stuff. Put a pin in it for now. Same with this article regarding the Activision Blizzard internal review finds nothing wrong. Again, but again,
we've investigated ourselves and found ourselves culpable of no wrongdoing.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Put a pin in it for now. We'll talk about it next week. Because in more irrelevant news, Epic launches crossplay tools for Steam and Epic games. Pretty much, what they're doing now is, if you're making a game for Epic, you can have it where apparently now you can have
Steam servers and
Steam and Epic, and now you can crossplay. So Cam has a game on Epic, I have a game on Steam. We can now play together. Of course, neither of us have Epic because why would you want to download Purpose? But at least it's a nice thing to do for. It's one of those things that just I don't care and doesn't affect me. And it's not like a problem. It's nice that now you can play with your friends that have the game on Steam, because Epic does give away a lot of free games. Odds are you probably got a game for free that your friends have on Steam. Play with them, or will be able to with the tools that developers can. That's pretty much it. And besides, as far as I'm aware, this is mostly for games that are being made, not games that are already out. So it's going to be like mobile, Steam, like games like your freaking Fortnite. Well, Fortnite's not on Steam, but games like Among Us and stuff. We also got Discord. So Discord introduces a new moderation tools, including auto mod. Pretty much just they're beefing up the platform so that you can moderate things better. You can add like a word filter, so this way you can block specific words. You can time users out that breach your rules with the auto mod. And it's just essentially just more of the same stuff from Discord. Apparently, the latter is a space run by Discord staff that lets the aforementioned space, that latter being a watch face. Discord admin community. Former is a educational center, so the Discord community resources, and then the Discord admin community. Former is a center created by experienced community leaders to help newer mods develop their skills. Servers. It's essentially just becoming more of a social media platform. Because I would hesitate to call Discord a social media. I'm just burning through some stuff. The Diablo stuff, so we'll talk about next week. Apparently, Ready or Not was pulled from Steam after adding a nightclub shooting level.
Oh boy.
However, the game they removed it, but the game is now back. Developer Void Interactive said the removal was due to suggested trademark infringement. So, yeah, you look at the headline and go, oh, shooting, a nightclub shooting level. They probably, because all the shooting's going on, and this and that, blah, blah, blah. They didn't want to surf those waters, I guess. But, no, it turns out that really wasn't the case. So Ready or Not was back on Steam after developer Void Interactive said the removal was due to suggested trademark infringement. In the post shared on Twitter, on Saturday, the studio said that it wanted to address rumors and explained that a takedown request was issued via Steam after it added the stage featuring a mass shooting in a nightclub. While it didn't explain what trademark was infringed, Void Interactive said that it takes IP concerns very seriously. Before adding, in show good faith, we have decided to remove the subject materials and any references to them from Ready or Not and from any of our social media and other publications. Okay, so I stand corrected. It's all bullshit, and Steam probably removed it because it's a mass shooting level, and then they put it back on when they removed the shooting level. My mistake. And that's why you read articles. I should read the whole thing. But yeah, apparently the players on social
me
media.
To read?
It's okay. You can write. So together we make one whole intellect.
Oh, fair enough. Watch out for the KGB.
Yeah. Players on social media have suggested that the name of the nightclub in the update was similar to a UK chain. Oh, so maybe there was actual copyright infringement. Maybe it's both. Maybe there was copyright infringement with the name being too similar, because didn't Monster Energy sue Ubisoft for their game being called Gods and Monsters?
Maybe.
And that's why they decided to name it Immortal Rising or something like that. They decided to screw the lawsuit. We'll just rename it because they didn't care. But Monster Energy was suing them because it had Monster in the title. Third, but so maybe it was something similar. They were like, rather not skirt that line and just rename it or whatever. But why not just rename it at that point?
The whole aspect of copyrights needing to have such a strict and stringent aspect to them that because like literally it's like if the company goes, let's say if you have something, whatever the thing is about something, and a company is like, well, hey, this would go and infringe on our copyright. They literally cannot go and just say, hey, it's okay. We'll write them an exception here. That's fine. They're good. They can't, because apparently and I mean, I can't just go and say, well, obviously everyone else is just a bunch of idiots and I'm the only smart one here. Like, no, that's not the case. But due to how complex copyright laws have been and all the shit added on since then, it makes it to where even if the company was like, hey, no, we like what you are doing, we have no problem with what you are doing, however, if we allow it, all these other groups are going to go and steamroll our shit and we won't be able to do anything because we let you go. Which, again, it's just fucking stupid as shit. Like, the entire idea that you can't, like, write exceptions to your own copyright laws.
Yeah, honestly, and it doesn't help that all these major companies the fuck out of the copyright acts. The various copyright acts.
Disney.
So. Disney just one of them. Sony does it too. Microsoft, they all do it.
Yeah.
It's just levels of how bad are they with it. Disney's arguably the worst, probably along with Sony and some others.
Like when they've gotten
Nintendo's
copyright
horrible.
laws rewritten several times over just to go and keep their copyright, decades past when it should have already gone public.
Mickey Mouse has been public.
Exactly.
Technically would have been public like 50 years ago. Plus.
Yep. But nope. We're fucking Disney. The rules don't. And that's one of the biggest things I fucking hate about all this shit is that if you're an individual, if you're a small company, you're expected to play by the rules, and you're held to task if you dare step your foot out of line here in relation to a large company. Or as a large company, we'll just go and throw a bunch of money around, and our lawyers will either jam you up until you get the fuck out, or until we get the laws rewritten, and we're good now. Haha. It bugs the fuck out of me.
Oh, it sucks too, because like you can't do anything.
Yep.
And in this case, by the way, with the shooting, I'm reading the article. It's more just because mass shooting in a club. So, because apparently, they confirmed that after they confirmed this back on Steam, the original article states that Tactical Shooter Ready or Not has temporarily been delisted from Steam a week after it added a stage featuring a nightclub. The level added on June 12th, the anniversary of the 2016 targeting, which is the anniversary of the 2016 mass shooting targeted LGBTQ + whatever alphabet attendees at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida. Ready or Not developer Void Interactive acknowledged the game was delisted, but did not explain why, and obviously now it's because of a quote-unquote infringed copyright, whatever. They went on to add, say, the reason for the shooter being delisted is unknown. Valve removed in the past for depicting violent real-world events. So it has a history of this sort of stuff, and that's the end of the day. So I feel like we reported on the previous time, but I just forgot because I guess at this point it's just a running trend for it. And then but yeah, so that's unfortunate that you have to have that level of censorship. Like, I get it. It's darker material. You don't want it in a video game on your storefront Steam, but at the same time, if you're going to censor all this shit, then what's...
Part of the problem, too, and I don't know necessarily how much this does or does not play into it, but one possible aspect of this is that you have a whole lot of parents that can't be bothered to raise their kids. You know, they shove a game console on a TV or a cell phone in front of the kid and say, hey, entertain yourself. I, the parent, am going to go party, or I'm going to go whatever the fuck. You know, not raise my fucking kid or be involved with their life or what they're doing. Oh, you want the latest Grand Theft Auto game when you're 13? Be fucking fine. Whatever. I don't give a fuck. But you do have parents who go against the ratings of games, give it to kids who are not mature enough to handle the topics involved. And then if shit happens, the kid was obsessed with GTA or some shit, they try to blame the game maker when it's like, look, we said you're supposed to be 18 or older to play this fucking game. Right. You bought, you the parents bought this game for a 13-year-old or whatever the case might be. How are we culpable for that? It's like if you were to go and look at porn and end up getting fucked up because of it or doing something stupid because of it, you can't go and hold Pornhub or whoever accountable when they're like, look, you got to be 18 to be on this website. If you're saying you are, we've done our checks to try to ensure that that people who should not be viewing this are not. If you keep going despite those warnings, you can't go and later bitch at us because you ignored them.
And honestly, with the video game violence stuff, that's not even like that's if, and that's big if when it's like related to the games. Usually, it's related to the parents themselves. Like, okay, like how often do you have like these mass shooting stuff? Not to go too off topic, but it's always one parent. The father's never there.
Yep.
Mother's rarely there, and she's the one parent that is. It's like, or there's always something, and there's always signs before that happens too. But no, it's let's blame violent video games, let's go more controlling guns. It's just a bunch of, it's a broken system.
Not parenting.
Yeah.
And to further clarify, because of course we always have to clarify this shit. That's not to say that shit doesn't happen when parents are involved and stuff like that. But at the same point, it would seem more often than that it is a lack of parenting or lack of parents being involved in their kids' lives that at least assists in raising up a kid who ends up going and doing really stupid stuff or really harmful stuff. And then, people go and lose their fucking minds over it. And again, everyone but the parent, not to say the parent is always to blame, but we've seen many times that where the parent is to blame, it gets ignored or swept under the rugs in favor of, if only we had more gun laws, if only we had more of this or more of that, or what. And it's like, if only, to me, it's like, if only the parent
there are band-aids to
or
a non-existent
community was more involved with the kid's fucking life, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Maybe they wouldn't have been running around with a gang at 2 a.m. or something and end up getting shot by police because they're threatening other people's lives.
Yeah. I mean, it's usually having two parents or even just one parent that's, actually there and actually parent is very important. Always ignored in regard to the mental health issues leading to, and all the gun control, blame the video game violence, all that stuff. That's all band-aids to essentially what is an arterial heart transplant.
Well, and one
band-aid's not going to help you there. You need a new artery.
Well, and one thing to note too with that kind of stuff, and again, you see this in several different ways from several different angles, but there has been a push, especially in the last, I would say, 15 years or so, of reducing individual responsibility across all levels. Now, and again, clarification, because clarification is always needed to go and not victim blame or whatever the fuck people want to poo-poo about it. But this isn't to say that shit doesn't happen, that circumstances outside of an individual's purview or possibility to foresee don't happen, and that, you know, lives go bad. Absolutely they do. You know, you get in a car crash, you lose your job, you get unexpected injuries or medical bills, stuff like that. Yes, stuff happens. At the same point, though, there's a lot of situations that could have been foreseen and people run blindly into them. Hey, I mean, for example, someone I know in another Discord server who went and I remember having conversations with them probably about 2 years back where they're like, oh, my current car is breaking down. I need to go get another one. I'm looking at this one and the interest rate on it was about 18%. And I'm like, hey, dude, that might not be the best thing to go for here. Maybe instead of buying a new vehicle and getting a loan on there, maybe you could look at something a little cheaper, maybe a used vehicle, something like that. No, this is my only. And literally, like me and several other people who would be talking to this guy over the course of like a week as he's talking about this car and going like, hey, you've got other options here. This isn't going to be the best choice in our opinions with what information you're giving us here. No. It's my only option. I have to do it. Was his mentality, and we're just like, dude, no, it's not. Just because you want it, and it's fine to want that as your primary choice. That's a-okay, but don't pretend you don't have other options. And then just earlier this year, he's going, man, I can't afford these car payments. This is getting ridiculous. And now he's looking at buying a new electric vehicle because gas is so expensive. I'm just like, dude, think about what you're doing here before you just start blindly digging yourself into deeper and deeper financial holes here. You have a lot of people like that don't want or don't care to go and actually think, okay, what is this decision going to lead to in 5 years? What is this decision going to lead to in 10 years? You know, now, not all decisions you got to think super long term for, but it's not a bad idea to at least go and consider, you know, what longer term ramifications beyond a month, beyond a year are going to look like. And I think if more people bought that way, instead of just going for immediate gratification, going, hey, let's look towards more sustainability here, a lot of people would be a bit better off. But and you see, like I said, social media, television, movies, all this kind of stuff has led a lot away from this idea that to some degree, not everyone has it fully, no matter who you are, but to some degree, we all have agency in our lives and the ability to go and affect the outcome of it. Practically no one, and again, I'm using my qualifier words here, since, you know, there's no absolutes and all that kind of shit, but practically no one is in a situation where they have zero control over your life to the point where you are locked in where you are, and no matter what you do, you can't change it. Yeah, not to say it's going to necessarily be easy or even feasible, but there are options. They might not be good options. They might be very bad options, but there's generally some kind of options that you can do to at least work toward improving yourself, improving your life, improving your kid's life if you have any, etc.
Anyone tell you should become a life coach?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, back to the story that
Who
spawned
wants
this.
to listen to me ramble on? I say on the podcast.
I mean, I'm sure someone would. Not me. I'm dropping out. Okay. But yeah, the
Oh,
whole
man, my
thing
first
with Ready or Not being delisted and relisted because they had and then respectively a mass shooting based level is absurd because it's like you don't want to. I get it. It's a video game. You don't want to have real life whatever, but at the same time you do because like you can't just censor and shield people off and live in a bubble. That's not how the world works. Like when Disney, I don't remember when. I think this was when Disney put Toy Story 2 back when Disney Plus first started. It may still be the case. I don't know. I don't have Disney Plus, but Toy Story 2, obviously at the end you have all the bloopers, which are like the best end credit scenes ever because you had the bloopers at the end. There was a scene where you had Stinky Pete in his box with two Barbies. He's talking about like, I can get you into the next Toy Story movie, and like trying to make poking fun of the casting couch stuff because it was the late '90s the movie came out, and it was a funny joke. And like, yeah, I understand it didn't age well, especially now, with the whole Me Too stuff and Harvey Weinstein and all that, but it's still commentary on what was and somewhat to an extent today still is the norm in the entertainment industry. Don't just get rid of it because you don't like it or don't agree with it. Keep it in there and leave it as a piece of this is what was happening at the time, and they were poking fun at it because no one was actually able to talk about it realistically without having their entire career just wiped from underneath them, and you never hear from them again.
Because very powerful people were involved, and if you did bad
very powerful
about
people
that,
were the ones doing
guess
it.
What?
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And one thing to note too. Now, obviously, comedy and humor cover a vast range of topics and positions and etc. But among other things, comedy, humor was always the way to go and breach subjects that could not otherwise be breached.
Like
And
take
to talk
the
about
producers.
things that could not otherwise be talked about.
Yeah.
Same thing with things like fairy tales or other such. Usually, especially in like the Middle Ages, it'd be like horror stories. Grendel, Beowulf, this kind of
Well,
thing.
just
These
escapism as a
monsters.
whole was kind of a way to do that. Like, you have the producers, right? Mel Brooks' producers, where it was, let's make a play about, because the movie came out in 1968, and they're at the time like, let's make a play about the Nazis and Hitler, World War II. No one's gonna watch. The whole point, obviously, of the film was they were gonna make a bad play that no one would watch, and they'd rake in money from the investors, and the deficit of the failing play. But because they expected it was 1960s, World War II still fresh in people's minds. No one wants to watch a play about World War II.
No one wants to relive
and of course,
this shit.
because it was a comedy, everyone loved it. But plot reasons aside, the whole point was that it was World War II stuff in the 60s. No one wants to hear about that. Marvel Comics in the 60s, in 64, 63.
No, literally, and it's been rehashing World War II since.
No, but specifically in the 60s, because the Captain America stuff was during World War.
Yeah.
But in the 60s, that when it became Marvel Comics, when Stan Lee was in charge along with Kirby and everyone, someone bet Kirby and Lee that they could not do a World War II comic because, again, it was anywhere between 1963 to 65.
And we're like, oh, it can't be done. It's
And
awful.
they're like, okay, you can't do a World War II comic, it's too soon, whatever. Then they end up making Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, and it's, in my opinion, one of the best World War II medias out there. Like, and it wasn't like, many people who think like World War II and Marvel are probably thinking of the movies with Captain America and like lasers and all that shit. Marvel Comics' version of World War II was pretty much realistic World War II, but Captain America was there.
Yeah.
And the Red Skull was there.
Here's
some
actual fights. There were just a couple extra characters.
Yeah, and you had some extra fights revolving around those characters, and you had some super weapon stuff, but none of it was like laser weapons. I think a lot of the super weapon stuff in the original Marvel Comics interpretation of World War II was essentially super weapons that the Nazis actually made in real life that just never got past a prototype.
Yeah, they never
So
used
it was like, what if they just succeeded
they were?
and made those weapons a thing? Honestly, like one of the more advanced weapons though in the comics were like the V1 and V2 rockets, which were the same thing in the reality. So Yeah, so it's like you have like a authentic World War II comic. You know, Sergeant Fury's Howling Commandos, and it was a successful run. It lasted for a few years. It was good. It was good stuff too. Highly recommend. But yeah, you have that, and you know, Godzilla, right? 1954. You know, Japan and Toho decided to make this. The whole purpose of Godzilla, it was a commentary on why nuclear, like the bad sides of nuclear. Because, not surprising, Japan was a little butthurt about nuclear energy and anything related to atomics.
They had a slightly different opinion than America on it.
Yes. Obviously, later on, it became a bit more of an adventure and the whole monster flick genre, but the first era of Godzilla, I think the Showa era it's called. I always forget if it's Showa or first or Heisei first. But anyway, that the first era of Godzilla movies was all about how nuclear energy is bad in the form of Godzilla. And that's kind of the thing with escapism as a whole. Like it's could be used as a medium to tell why something is bad. Like Mobile Suit Gundam, right? Gundam is why war is bad. That's pretty much the subtext of Gundam. It shows you why.
We're gonna keep showing you, bitch.
And then you have stuff like with Toy Story making fun of the casting couch stuff. Here, like with Ready or Not, I don't know what the context was for the mass shooting level, but so I can't speak on that. But I can speak to something similar, which is the airport scene in Modern Warfare 2.
Yep, I remember that.
No Russian, remember? So it's like you got, like sometimes you need to bring these topics up. Yes, they're hard to talk about. Yes, you don't want to talk, like you don't think they should exist in X whatever format, but if you just get rid of it like Disney would, just erase it, right? Then what's to stop it from happening again? Now, obviously, it's one small thing, but the point is you keep bringing it up and using it in a narrative way to, teach the reader or viewer or player or whatever it is that this is wrong.
The same reason you have the tales of, for example, the boy who cried wolf. Hey, if you keep lying to people when you really need them to believe you, they're probably not going to. I mean, this is a good lesson.
God damn bot again. You seeing this, by the way? Like the bot in our chat?
Nope, haven't seen it at all. Too busy playing Minecraft.
Keep reporting it. It's the same fucking bot too. Why isn't it like shutting it up?
Bot.
YouTube fucking sucks. But yeah, that's the whole thing. I just feel stupid. Like, oh no, it said something that offended Steam. Like, and it's not even like really a video game having a shootout thing. Like, as you said, like in GTA, you can do pretty much anything. You can shoot up an entire town. You're saying that, but that's still on Steam.
Details.
By the beach. So moving on though. We got EA.
Move on.
Moving on. So EA's salary, EA CEO's salary dropped from $219.9 million. Whoopity fucking do. So Android Wilson saw a 40% decline in target equity award, but still receives $30 million stock bonus.
Jeez,
so his salary, keep in mind, his salary, that's not all the money he gets, just his salary as CEO dropped to $19.9 million.
He probably has stock options on top of
that. Yeah, his stock options allow him to receive $30 million stock bonus. On top of whatever money he gets from the pocket, from the hard work of devs, from macro transactions, pocket, along with the other execs.
Details.
But yeah, Electronic Arts, also known as Evil Actual, or as of recent with the Titanfall hacks, easily accessible. Boss Android Wilson saw a pay drop in 2021 following a vote from shareholders to lower executive bonuses. Good on them. In a new company filing spotted by Axio, the firm reported that Wilson received $19.9 million in 12 months ended March 31st of 2022. Just for some context, by the way, the CEO of Intel last year of 2021 received $180 million. And Bobby Kotick is probably going to earns like a fuck ton more than that.
Yeah.
He's CEO of Activision Blizzard. So just adding some context there. Obviously, again, that's received, not salary of. But anyway, it's a decline on the $32.9 million salary that Wilson had paid the year prior. Was paid the year prior. However, the CEO is still awarded a sizable stock grant of $30 million. Period. According to a proxy filing, the company's board of directors said the bonus was in the best interest of stockholders, given the heightened competition for top executive talent and the need to continue to retain and motivate Mr. Wilson. Why would they need to retain him? Why get rid of him and put someone who's actually qualified? Also, Android Wilson is just Handsome Jack from Borderlands. EA shareholders voted against a proposal that last year they voted against a proposal that would see take home. That would see take home, but they see him take home and bonuses increase for executives at the firm, including Wilson. Okay, I probably misread that. I apologize. In response, the firm has committed to not granting any equity awards in two named executive officers until the year of fiscal 2026 at least. It also notes that the target value of Wilson's equity award for 2022 is 40% lower than it was in 2021, and it will not increase either. Extortionate executive pay has been contested across the industry in recent years. Activision CEO Bobby Kotick is set to receive a $154.6 million compensation package for the fiscal year, but the approval of the payout was pushed back by shareholders. Kotick, whatever, the CEO of Activision Blizzard could also receive a separate $15 million if he's let go after Microsoft's acquisition buyout of Activision Blizzard. Yeah, I heard somewhere up to like 25 million, but yeah, it's around 15, anywhere between 15 and 25 million. He's gonna get a fucking parachute, a golden parachute clause that could come into effect if the CEO is removed from his position after the deal closes. So yeah, that's great, isn't it? And then apparently we got the Diablo Immortal's Chinese relaunch was delayed. NetEase blames optimization adjustments for postponement, does not address banning of games on account. Weibo, I don't even know how to. I'm just assuming it's the same way, like, but yeah, I mean, China has been really cracking down hard on video. The whole quote-unquote ethical and moral whatever thing, so that they won't allow anything that doesn't have, like, for instance, like a man with pink hair that can't be in a video game in China, so you have that, have anything, or even a man with long hair, stuff like that. You're not going to have a game that, it's the same thing as like with the movies. China is they censor things on a literally whatever the thing is basis. You can be making a lot of content in China, but you're not like, oh, this guy's regulated to do stuff in China. It's no, each thing you make gets regulated. Bizarre. It's unfortunate for people in China. And it sucks here because all these stuff that they, movies especially in recent years have been in a steady decline for the last 12 plus years or so because they keep trying to market to that Chinese audience, which, great that Chinese are getting movies, but Americans are getting shittier movies as a result of it. Because they have to make the movies okay in China, which means that they have to be dumbed down and easily editable. Pieces need to be easily removable from the film so it can be aired in China.
Go on.
That's. Oh, I was gonna say that's all the articles I have, but we do have one last thing. I forgot it's in the title, but the Starfield updates and Fallout 5 news. So Fallout 5, in an interview with Todd Howard last week, apparently it was revealed that they'll be working on Fallout 5 after Elder Scrolls 6, which is obviously after Starfield. Starfield, Elder Scrolls 6, Fallout 5. That's your Fallout 5 news. And I remember like hearing rumors that it's going to be in New York or something like that, which should be interesting because New York. In Fallout lore, was New York, was it one of the reactors had a meltdown before the bombs? Or obviously New York would have been a massive target for the Chinese anyways. So either way, there's probably going to be a giant crater where Central Park used to be, or that area.
Details.
But yeah, so that should be interesting if the rumors are true. That's going to be. Starfield news, though, we got updates about pretty much a lot of questions answered. It doesn't change anything. I still think that it's going to be Fallout / Skyrim in space, and we're going to have to rely on modders or add stuff to the game. But we got questions like flying down the planet is not going to be a thing, which we already knew from the demo they showed. But he was just confirming it that it's going to be a cutscene. It's like Mass Effect, where you hover around the planet, you press a button to scan stuff on the planet, and then you can click on a location on the planet to land. They talked about what else did they talk? I mean, a lot of the questions were related to the space stuff, but we already covered that last week. And I do want to address something, because in the last week, since last episode, I've been seeing a lot of Star Citizen Killer related to Starfield. And I've been seeing a maximum, I think I saw 6 videos as of today that are, either questioning this or trying to debunk it. And the fact that there's videos about that at all would make you think, oh, a lot of people are thinking it's going to be a Star Citizen Killer, right? Except I've only seen a total of 6 people actually mention the word Star Citizen Killer. Starfield is like Star Citizen.
Details.
I mean, yes, it shares some visual elements with Star Citizen. 2 of the locations that we saw in the demo. I remember watching it, but honestly, if you're going to compare it to another space-based game, Mass Effect or release version of No Man's Sky would be accurate. Or even Outer Worlds. It's probably not going to have the humor.
Or humors.
Whatever. The game, I don't know, like Starfield's. We talked about it last week, but you think anything new based on some of the new information we got? Anything?
Not at all.
Not at all. No.
I love Canada.
But yeah, here's the update. Oh, well, that was it. The procedural generation he was talking about, which we already knew. It was used in Skyrim and Fallout 4. Again, it was just it was answers to a lot of questions we already knew the answers to. It was just essentially confirming these, because they didn't talk about it during the demo. They were talking about the demos. The interview was talking about 1,000 planets, 100 systems. It's it's going to be a Bethesda game. It's going to look nice, but it's going to function like shit, and modders are going to have to fix it. I'm sure the modders will do fantastic because it's still just the modified version of the creation engine, so they're all familiar with it. They'll be fine. Which is probably Bethesda's thinking too, because why make a new engine that was more suited to the task than instead of just repurposing a decades old?
Reason.
Apparently, the main quest is around 20% larger than games like Elder Scrolls Skyrim and Fallout 4. It takes 30 to 40 hours to complete, excluding extra side stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much exactly what we said last week. Just expect, a typical really crappy Bethesda release. I mean, at best, we're wrong and it's amazing, and at worst, we're right and
nice.
It's gonna have to be fixed by mods 4 years later. Like Fallout 4. And even Cyberpunk, which I'm still waiting on mods to. There are some good mods, like the Corpse and Gang trait mod alone is a fantastic mod that it's a must download, I think, but it's not enough. I want more mods that make the game an actual RPG. GTA, Fallout 4, Cyberpunk. The bot's damn bad. Off, bot.
Biggity bop.
Oh, good. One of our mods is actually here and on it. Thank you, MegaJetty1. It's the most views we've the most traffic we've had on our channels from a fucking sex bot.
Not surprised.
No, just disappointed. Oh, I forgot about this. Do we even bother?
With?
So, apparently, 343 had to apologize. 343 had to apologize for some armor core. What the fuck? Armor coatings. That was what they fucking called them. Halo Infinite, the paint jobs for your armor. They had to apologize for the name of their Juneteenth armor coating thing.
Oh, I remember that.
Because it was named after a baboon or something like that, or an ape.
So
named after an ape. It was called Bonobo, I think. I'd probably mispronouncing that, but whatever. Bonob.
Either way, though, it's kind of just like, really? Just really?
Yeah. Well, they're willing to apologize for that, but remember when the whole summer of 2020, when BLM and all the riots and stuff were going around, they had a BLM. They had actually the New Mombasa Police Department nameplate in Mass Chief Collection, and people were like, they have to remove it because it's political and all that shit. But they also had a BLM nameplate that's still there. So it's bad to have the fictional police force that you fight alongside in ODST, not the real-world political movement that has been causing crime, violence, death, etc.
And killed people in riots, and that's fine.
Totally, and they removed it not to be. Remember, they didn't want to be political, so they removed the fictional one. Fucking 343, man. It's like,
Just and again, it's like consistency. If you don't want to be political, that's a-okay. That's
oh no,
totally
there is
fine.
some
Totally
consistency.
understand it.
343 being
Don't be
shitheads is
political, though.
consistency.
But that's the thing is, if you, because it's like I fully support organizations and people out there that are like, hey, look, I don't even want to get drawn into it. I just want to stay in my lane. I want to do my thing. You know, I want to sell my product or talk about whatever things I want to talk about and not even get into that whole can of worms there. Fully support it. But when you say you're not going to be political, but then you pick and choose certain political things to get behind while still saying you're not political, it comes across as at least slightly hypocritical.
Indeed. Also, like,
Maybe that's just me.
on the topic of consistency, at least 343 themselves are being consistent, or being blockheads. They really did kill it. It took them 10 years, but they really did kill a franchise. Finally, didn't. Some would argue they killed it immediately
sure
after
they're
Halo
still
4,
working on
but I think it was in more recent years, actually. Like, it still had a chance of coming back, and they failed. They killed.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There was. The chance is gone. It was a fleeting moment, and the moment has fleeted. Long, whatever. In some non-gaming news, though, just real quick, two things. One, this is from late May, but worth mentioning. Joe Quesada has left Marvel Comics. He was the editor-in-chief for a while. No one liked him. I thought he did all right with one Iron Man story back in the 90s. I mean, he's gone, but now they're probably going to replace him with someone worse.
Get fucked.
Also, apparently there's this trend in Marvel Comics where we have to have... Miles Morales is now everything. According to a Screen Rant article, Thor Miles Morales is Marvel's best new character in years. Yes, Miles Morales is now Thor. Or
I'm using everyone being Thor now.
yeah, right. I love how it's Thor is not. It's not like Batman where it's the mantle of the bat, right? You know, it's
Well, like, and you
name.
could call him. You could say this is Miles Morales, God of Thunder. That would work.
I was talking to my brother about this yesterday because he was the one that actually told me about the whole Thor Miles Morales thing. I'm like, what the fuck? And it's all for. It's the same reason why back in 2014 you had, or 2013, whichever one, you had like every character being Gwen Stacy because of the Amazing Spider-Man films and the popularization of the Gwen Stacy character through Emma Stone. Was that the actress? Emma Stone.
That's all right.
Her portrayal of the character, which was good, but it's like her popularizing character now made. We have to make everyone like so. The Spider Gwen and this Gwen. There's a Gwen pool, Deadpool, Gwen Stacy King, Deadpool. It was all this nonsense, and it's the same thing here because Marvel's out of ideas and they need to sell comics, so they'll do any controversy or anything to keep themselves relevant to continue selling.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the whole thing is absurd. With Thor specifically, it's really weird because even when they did female Thor with Jane Foster back in early 2010, it was always weird to me because Thor isn't the superhero name. Thor is his name. He is Thor Odinson.
Yeah, that, like it'd be the same as Bob. Hey, they're now Bob, and it's like talk about rewriting and appropriating characters here. Just saying.
Imagine one saying no problemo, dude. Not how I expected to make my entrance tonight, but then again, it is a Monday, and he's saying all the bots are hidden and reported. Keep an eye out though, because I hid and reported like multiple of them, and they keep coming back, and seems to be the same. But the Thor thing, it's like
Canada.
you know, in the 70s, they had a what if issue where it's like, what if Jane Foster found the hammer of Thor and she became Thorina, the goddess of thunder? Because when you pick up the hammer, you don't become Thor, you just get all of his powers and attributes.
Well, if you are worthy.
Right, but my point is, if you can pick up the hammer at all, you know, whoever is worthy can, you know, has the power of Thor. like in the 80s when Beta Ray Bill picked up the hammer, he didn't become Thor, he just became Beta Ray Bill with Thor's powers.
Just kind of, you know.
Even when, what's face? Didn't they have like Captain America in one of the films pick up the hammer?
Yeah.
Same thing, right?
They had in the last Avengers movie, they had because of the multiple dimensions kind of thing, you had Stormbreaker, which was Thor's new axe.
Which, by the way,
then you had his hammer from the other dimension, what Steve was then wielding in the battle against Thanos.
Gotcha. I gotta show you a screenshot of the original Stormbreaker, because Stormbreaker is Beta Ray Bill's version of Mjolnir. And it is so much cooler in the comics. First off, it's gold.
Is it? Ooh, shiny.
But yeah, my point is, like, you know, you're taking this guy's name, you're taking his entire identity.
Again, again, talk about character appropriation.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's been bandied about so much over the years, and it's like you're literally taking this guy's name and powers, kicking him up to the side and going, "I'm Thor now." Like, it'd literally be like someone else going, "I'm Frank now. I'm Bob now.
I'm Cam
whoever."
now.
It'd be like, what?
Although in the PCMR it would be replicated. Yeah. No, but it's the whole thing. Like, you're at that point, you're not becoming like, oh, it's, you know, Green Lantern. How many fucking Green Lanterns isn't, like, yeah, it's the hero's name. I mean, it's the hero name, right? Their code name, but it's also the name of essentially this intergalactic police force. They're called the Green Lanterns. So there's multiple Green Lanterns.
He is a Green Lantern.
Exactly.
But he belongs to the Green Lantern.
Right. So, like, you know, you and I, we can both be Green Lanterns, but, you know, we can't be Thor because, you know, Thor's over there. He's Thor. You know, you're taking their identity. You're not even just taking their name and their powers. You're taking their identity when you do that. And, you know, I remember ranting to you a year ago now, with the whole X-23, because in 2014 or 15 they decided to make her Wolverine. They killed off Wolverine in the comics and made her Wolverine.
Yep.
And you'd think, oh, that's, you know, nice, because she's, for anyone who doesn't know, X-23 is the female clone of Wolverine, featured in the Bloodroot. She was featured in the my roommate just sneezed. She was featured in Logan. But in the comics,
so she's a female clone, and generally they approach her and Wolverine's relationship
as a father and daughter.
Father-daughter.
Yeah, because
of him trying to make sure she doesn't make the same.
So that's the thing. She was created by the same program that essentially created Wolverine, that made him the Weapon X that he is. You know, that made him Weapon X, and they cloned her. Like, they tried to make a clone of Wolverine so they could have their own Wolverine. Obviously, in the comics, the genetic sample they had was damaged, so they altered the chromosomes so it was a female, but they had a functioning clone of Wolverine because they wanted to have a Weapon X under their control again. So they made a clone of Wolverine, X-23, to have, and Wolverine saves her. And yeah, it's this father-daughter relationship, because Wolverine sees it as a chance to kind of right the wrongs that were done to him and prevent the same mistakes happening again, right?
From happening to her.
You know, saving her from his own fate, because she was created to be him. So, and he doesn't want her to be him. He wants her to be her own person, to actually be a person,
to have a life that he never got,
or just have a life in general, as opposed to just being the weapon that she's created to be the replacement weapon. But here you make her Wolverine, you undo all that, because the whole point was she was her own character. She was, like, she even had her own name. It wasn't Laura Howlett, or, you know, because Logan's name is James Howlett. You know, it was Laura Kinney. You know, she was her own person. The whole point was she was supposed to be essentially Wolverine fixing his own mistakes through her.
Can't have that.
But no, yeah. And that's just the problem. Like, you know, these writers clearly don't think. Oh, they think, oh, cool, give the daughter the father's mantle, or their mother, right? Like, have the next generation of hero type thing.
Yeah, without going, hey, you know, in the story, this is not working.
Like, but it doesn't make sense. Yeah. In some cases, it does. Like, you know, even Batman, right, with Dick Grayson. like one of my favorite Batman lines that's not a Kevin Conroy line is from Young Justice, where Wonder Woman's going like, "You indoctrinated. I'm not surprised. You indoctrinated Robin to fight crime when he was 9," and he goes, "So he needed to find the killers of his parents. So he turned out like you, so he wouldn't." Like Batman, for all of his for all his Batmaning, he knows he's a flawed individual, and he is not right in the head. He does not want that for his son, for lack of a better term. Nightwing, Dick Grayson, is his son. So, and now he becomes Nightwing. That's, again, his becoming his own person, coming out of the shadow of the Bat. That was a big thing at the time, and still is.
Well, and that's a big problem of a lot of the modern superhero stuff, is that self-awareness has gone to the wayside.
Yeah.
To where, this idea of a superhero thinking that maybe, my proteges here would not, that I don't want them to just be mini-me's. Like, that doesn't even seem to register for the writers. It's just, Batman, yeah, awesome. That's it.
And that's why I really enjoyed this story. This is part of the Nightfall story arc in the 90s with Batman Prodigal. It was part of the Nightfall. It was like a aftermath of Nightfall. And in it, it's Dick Grayson takes the mantle of Batman comes back, and Bruce Wayne's finally healed. He comes back, takes the mantle of the Bat back from Azrael, and then goes, "I need to figure things out, though. I'm still weird in the head after essentially being out of commission for so long. I need to think things through." And this time he asked Dick to take over, because the reason he didn't ask Dick in the first place was he knew Dick didn't want to be Batman.
Yeah,
and he didn't want to force. And the thing is, he doesn't want to force Dick into that. And Dick and they have this nice father-son moment at the end of the story, where they're fighting over like, why didn't you pick? Like, I know, he goes like, I didn't want to, whatever. Like, I wanted you to be your own man. You wanted you to be your own man. You left. I thought you didn't want any part of this world anymore. And Dick is like, yeah, but you think I wouldn't have come back for you, like to help you out? And then like they have this whole argument, and then at the end, Bruce, like, there's silence, and Bruce just goes, "So this is what it's like between fathers and sons." It's like this really nice moment, and it's like, yeah, Dick was wearing the cape and cowl for like 10 issues or so, but the whole point was that he was just doing it temporarily because, like, yeah, he doesn't want to do it, he hates it, but just because he hates it doesn't mean he wouldn't do it for his father, for his friend, his partner or ex-partner, Batman Robin dynamic duo. But it's just the whole, as you said, like, they're that lack of awareness of the story you're writing in, right? Even if it's an alternate continuity, because the whole Dick Grayson Batman relationship is a consistency between almost every Batman continuity. I mean, Young Justice, the main DC comics, the cartoons, right, the animated series, even like the other Batman cartoons that are not so popular, like The Batman or stuff like that. Brave and the Bold. Like, there's some consistent, permanent, ingrained elements of the character's DNA that you cannot change across continuities. Like, that would be one of them for the Batman IP, but like for others too. And obviously they just lack that self-awareness. Just the character and the story that they're writing in. And they also just don't give a shit because they want to make, straight male bad. Sorry, words. We need to replace them with a woman or with a black person. So.
The suit will be perfect
when it fits a woman. Yeah.
Like, it's just like, really?
Oh my god, that's the arc of Halo, isn't it?
Philly Bay.
Yeah. Amazing One says, I don't mind Miles Morales being a new Spider-Man character. Sorry, a new Spider character. I just wish they didn't push him onto us as new Spider-Man. That's the same mistake they made with Ben Reilly. Grayson had a father, but Bruce did fill the void. Yeah, Grayson had a father, but it's very clear in a lot of the pre-New 52 classic DC post-crisis comics, so pretty much everything from 80s to 2000s, that Dick saw Bruce as his father, as his dad. And it was, the feeling was mutual. Bruce saw Dick as his son. They even went to make it, because, he was his ward, right? He wasn't actually adopted in the original comics. They actually fixed that later on. But yeah, also the whole Ben Reilly thing. So for context for anyone listening and doesn't understand the reference, obviously Ben Reilly's Peter Parker's clone from the Clone Saga. During 95, 96, the later years of the Clone Saga went on for far too long than it should have. They had this fake out where no, it turns out Peter was the clone and Ben Reilly was the real one all along. And so they decide, okay, Ben Reilly is going to be Spider-Man now. And audiences, myself included, hated this because it's like, wait, so you're telling me that I've been reading the wrong Spider-Man for the last God knows how many years? Because the original Clone Saga story starts in 1974 with the introduction of the Jackal and the Ben Reilly, the original clone, or he's called Ben Reilly. And so you're essentially saying in universe it's like 5-7 years, somewhere in between there, but like comic book, like real world, that's 1974, 1994 at earliest. Like that's, like, you kidding me? So it's like, I've been reading the wrong Spider-Man, and the stories were okay featuring him, but it's like him playing catch up to what the audience already knows. Like, oh no, Sandman's on the loose, but at that point Sandman was a good guy. Sandman was even an Avenger at one point, and so it's like,
well, who do you avenge?
It's like, you have all that stuff, but here with the Miles Morales stuff, I think it's worse because at least there, it was a clear, like, it's like when they killed off Superman just to bring him back, like, and then decided to do that with every character in comics ever. But, it's a whole, like, we'll get rid of them for a little bit and then have them come back for sales because we need to make more money. We need people to get hooked on a series or even not even hooked, but just keep buying so that they see what happens. And with Miles Morales, though, they killed off Spider-Man because Miles Morales originates from the Ultimate Comics, the Ultimate Spider-Man from 2000. That's where Black Nick Fury is from. And they killed off Spider-Man in that unit. The death of Spider-Man. Sexbot is back. They then brought Miles Morales in right afterwards. And I don't remember... I have to check. I don't remember if Mark Bagley was involved post-Death of Spider-Man on Ultimate Comics. But obviously Brian Michael Bendis, who was the writer, he was involved all the way. And it was just, I don't know, to me it's just tokenized Spider-Man. Like, if you like the character, that's fine, that's great. Like, I'm glad that you do. I just don't. Because in order for this character to exist, we need to have the actual Spider-Man, the real Spider-Man, die. Because they didn't feel competent on making another Spider-Man character. And it's not like you only have one Spider-Man or Spider-Man-esque character in that universe. No, just in that universe. In the Ultimate Comics, you have their version of Spider-Woman is a female clone of Peter Parker, which is really fucked up. But my point being is you essentially have another Spider-Man or another Spider-Man-esque character. Like, why not just, in the origin is valid. Like, it's just another spider. And even that is kind of little cockamamie because, like, how many of these spiders were made? And like,
all of them.
All of them. Like, do they all have the, but like, to me, the origin and the way it was done and all that, it takes away the uniqueness of it. It takes away the specialness. No, it takes away the specialness of Peter Parker Spider-Man. And that is, it wasn't like some thing of fate or some magic bullshit like they tried to retcon in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s with much fate. More something. I don't even remember. some villain. It was horrible, but the whole original story for Spider-Man was actually he was attending a watch face on radiation experiment on radiation, and Spider just happened to be in the way, got irradiated, bit him, died, and he got powers. It was an accident. It was a freak thing. That was the whole point of Marvel Comics, was they were originally taking all these previously known as the villain origin, right? Scientific accidents, or just accidents in general, would usually create the villains in comics. But they were just using that, like, no, we're going to use those to create the heroes, because the heroes were not always good guys to start with in comics.
Well, and also, too, when you have, everyone's being bit by all these spiders, it takes away from, as you said, what makes Peter Parker Peter Parker. Because, like, imagine if every single enemy that Captain America fought all were using some super soldier serum kind of stuff. And it's
on that though, like, that's something that Marvel Comics, like, it's funny because it became a trope in the comics for years, but it was a good one. Like, it was some villains always trying to recreate the super soldier serum and whatever.
Yeah.
It became like a type of in-universe thing that everyone's chasing after because no one's been able to recreate it since the 40s after the original scientist died.
Yep.
And it was nice, like, you see all these different things, but, like, yeah, like, no one, it's not like every villain Cap was fighting also had it, or all of his allies had it. It was just him.
And only him.
There's lazy, and then there's extremely lazy, and then there's morally and creatively bankrupt, which is what modern day writers
Marvel.
are. Huh?
And then there's Marvel.
And then there's Marvel, yeah. Like, give credit where credit's due. At least DC in some aspects, whether it's like one-off issues here and there, like not the main continuity stuff, like some one-off stuff here and there, or some like animated stuff, they're still trying. Even if it's like minimal effort trying, it's, credit where credit's due in comparison to Marvel. But it is sad that, like, the big two are now just, like, they have a lot of good stuff under their belt, but everything on top of the belt is just.
Well, and part of the big issue too with a lot of franchises out there, honestly, is
I just described most escapism today, unfortunately.
Like, they go and they make good stuff, they get big, and either in the process of getting big or they sell out once they get big, or whatever happens here. But once they sell out to other companies, to now to the point where the other company would be Marvel or DC. At that point, then it becomes no longer about passion. As we've always said about, like, video games and such. It's no longer about passion at all. It's simply about what's the least viable product that can be shit out with whatever franchises we've got under our belts here, and shit it out, package it up, boom, there we go. Yet another AAA game here.
Yeah, let's just repackage the same thing and sell.
Exactly.
Megan One saying, exactly. In fact, one can argue Osborn's performance enhancers from the first... the origin of Green Goblin in the Raimi films was just another attempt to recreate the super soldier serum. I enjoyed that a lot. I thought, because in the comics it kind of was as well, to an extent. Like, you can argue the same thing. Like, and that's, again, it was a tropey story type in Marvel Comics, but it was a good tropey story type. Because it always ended up with some really interesting stories, because it's always done by some evil manufacturer or company or whatever, like Roxxon. It's just, it was fun stuff. But I don't know, you don't. Modern writing, whatever. Like, it's a shame too, because Marvel's decay and decline in quality was evident 20 plus years ago now. It's just like now it's just a decline in the storytelling and the overall writing and stuff. Like, forget the whole political correct stuff that was added on top of that in the 2010 decade, right? like early 2010s when they started adding all that shit in. Where now we have to have female this and black teenage version of Iron Man and so on and so on.
Well, and part of the problem too, and like I said, if I'm being courteous to the idea of it, maybe when a lot of these writers were growing up, the idea of this is this superhero but black, this superhero but female, this superhero but whatever. Maybe when they were growing up, that was enough to go and wow people and be, hey, wow, that's a fresh new take on this stuff. But these days it's like, okay, so get this, our main character is a soldier, but they're female. People these days, like at the very least, my generation, if not the generation coming afterwards, we go, okay, and what else? You can't tell me that's all you got here. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you and I were growing up,
that is all they got.
And that's the thing, is like they also act like we don't have female or black characters to pull from already. When you and I know for a fact that's not true because we grew up with them.
Yep. And again, that's the thing. It's like we aren't sitting in a void here. We have seen decent and good characters, and trying to like pretend that what you're shitting out meets criteria simply because you're the one shitting it out here. No. Sorry. No. Not buying it.
Yeah, and like the whole thing with it's also insulting. Like you have
it is.
Marvel always talking about, back in 2018-19 with Black Panther and Captain Marvel, quote unquote, respectively. They're saying like, people want to see themselves in the films, right, and see themselves as the heroes, and that's why we need to have all the representation and inclusion, diversity, and all those fancy buzzwords that they are misusing because that's not what the words mean.
To some degree, I'm on board with that. Absolutely.
Yes, but why not use the characters instead of just race swapping and gender bending?
Characters and not caricatures. And
that
so
too.
often we get caricatures that oftentimes, at least to me, seem more racist than if you are trying to be what's called actively racist these days.
Yeah. No, you're precisely right. I mean, you have what's-face, and we need to have X whatever representation in the movie, right? So they're gonna gender bend that character. So that implies that they don't think the actual, like an actual female character would work. They have to then make a male character female in order for it to work. As well as same thing applies, black characters and all that. It's like you have existing black characters, like with Captain Marvel. You had the first female Captain Marvel, who was a black chick, who had cool powers. Why not use that instead of
who was? And I will note they actually did bring her into the new Doctor Strange movie, which was cool to see.
And then you have
at the end of the movie. I'm kidding.
But spoilers, so
everyone died. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, the Illuminati did. She was among them.
Damn it, Mando! Now we've just been canceled again.
I don't think.
You're a
and hell, you want to talk representation and everything? Scarlet Witch. The character of Scarlet Witch, along with Ben Grimm, Kitty Pryde, Ben Grimm, the Thing, and Kitty Pryde, Shadowcat of the X-Men, among many others, are all Jewish characters. Like, the characters themselves are Jewish. Magneto's the only Jewish character I've seen from comic books to properly have been represented. Because they actually used his origin ties to the Nazi concentration camps he was in Auschwitz, so they played into that very well with the first film.
Yeah, but going.
Yeah, but obviously I understand the weird legality issues when they added Scarlet Witch into the MCU, because they didn't own Fox yet. Disney. But Scarlet Witch, for those who don't know, is Magneto's daughter, along with Quicksilver. They had twins. to a Jewish leader.
Oh.
And he himself is
Hey,
Jewish. That makes them Jewish. That's how it works.
What? Crazy.
Ben Grimm's a fellow Brooklyn Jew. Yeah, whatever. It's
Well,
okay. It's
just
okay
like
though.
with
It's always
redheads.
okay to hate on the Jews. Okay.
Just like all the redheads. Can't have that.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing with the redheads. You know, every time, how many redheads have been race swapped? Just with comic books alone. You have the entirety of the West family with Iris West and Wally West. And obviously their respective lineage. You have Annie, fuck's sake. You know, the play Annie. Daddy, and I guess Daddy Warbucks as well from that, but I don't know if Daddy Warbucks was a redhead or not because he's fucking bald. But then you had whatchamface was race swapped. You had MJ of freaking Starfire with the live action Titans show.
Oh god, I had
I know,
forgotten about that. Hey.
It's just Hollywood has this thing. Barbara Gordon and Jim Gordon, all right, you know, the Gotham City commish and his daughter Babs, Oracle, Batgirl, whatever, whichever one. You know, they've been race swapped, or she's going to be race swapped in her upcoming film. Jim was already race swapped in the Batman. I still haven't seen that. Not for lack of want, just for lack of sitting down for 3 hours.
You can't sit down for 3 hours? Oh,
I mean,
personal problem.
I don't want to sit down for 3 hours to watch a movie.
Okay,
Especially when it's not like a movie I'm excited to see. Like, yeah, I'm interested, like, or curious, I should say, but only because I've heard good things about it. But I'm not like very keen on. Oh, I need to watch this. You know, I've been looking forward to it. No, I haven't. I was thinking it was going to be horrible, and then until I hear good things from it. I don't know. It's just we've gone on a weird rabbit hole of comic book stuff, and let's continue now. I will say this though: while Disney and Marvel, not Disney, well, Disney, yes, but Marvel and DC have been kind of crapping their pants out of idiocy in the early, mid, and then late 2000s. Image Comics was knocking it out of the park with Invincible. Like, Invincible was kind of carrying where Marvel left off in regards to the storytelling. Like, they were really good at bringing up real-world issues through comic book stories. Such as abortion, rape, and all these other stuff that you would not ever see in a comic book. Although the rape, you probably would. There's a surprising a lot of it in comics. But it's, yeah, because the way they tell it's actually really... Because it's not like let me pause the book to talk about this thing. It's part of the story. Like, you know, spoilers for anyone... Actually, I won't spoil it.
Some areas that'll go and include it simply to have a shock value, just to throw it at you and go, oh, look, oh.
No, and that's the thing. It's not for shock value because they don't show anything. It's still a comic book.
Well, yeah, but still, they would throw it into the story.
Right, but in the event of... So I'll spoiler a little bit, because obviously for anyone who's watched the Invincible animated thing on Amazon, you know, you can probably tell that Mark and Eve are going to get together. They do eventually. At one point, Mark has to go to space, and when he comes back to Earth, it turns out that while he was gone, he left a pregnant Eve behind. They didn't realize at the time that he left, but she had an abortion in the time that she found out before he came back. And you see how like it destroys her inside. Like she didn't know what to do. Mark wasn't here. Mark wasn't there, and he feels like crap because he didn't know. And it's like this, whole thing. This is a whole arc that they go through, and then eventually they do have a kid. And the story where they do the rape is actually Mark gets raped by another a woman.
Whoa! This is Marvel we're talking about. Guys can't be raped.
No, this is Image Comics. This is fucking Invincible. We can do whatever they want. But the founder, one of the founders, co-founder of Image Comics, Eric Larson. The other is Todd McFarlane, both of which did the Amazing Spider-Man, early to mid '90s. Todd has been kind of on his pipe dream to try and make a live-action Spawn movie. Good luck to him on that.
Good luck.
But Eric Larson's kind of going off the deep end of it. That's unfortunate. Maggie once says Starfire from Titans could have worked if they painted the actress orange. Yeah, you know what's great about an orange-skinned alien? It doesn't matter who the fuck you cast for them.
Orange.
They're an orange-skinned alien. But of course, Orange bad. Orange Man bad, right? Remember that?
Well, I mean, for example, look at Gamora from
right, exactly.
Raiders of the
No, that's a perfect example.
Like
she also played
the actress did a great job with that, and
she was also Uhura, wasn't she?
She was black.
Yeah,
she did a great job with the role.
No, I think that was like a perfect casting thing right there.
You know, your body paint or whatever.
Yeah, like exactly. At that point, if you're playing a character, like that kind of falls along the lines of like a voice role, right? Where like, who gives a shit what or who you are, you know. You're voicing a character. You visually have nothing to do with the character.
What matters is that you give your voice to the character. If you empathize that character well through your voice, great, good job. You know, excellent. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
In the animated series, the Spider-Man animated series, the Kingpin's voiced by a black guy. It's a big white guy. Like, who gives a shit? He did a fantastic. He's probably my favorite Kingpin voice of all time. Because the way his demeanor and the way he portrays himself through his voice and all that, it's just, you feel intimidated. Like, this guy's the kingpin of crime. He's this criminal mastermind.
Mr. Mood?
Master Move. Next one also says, now I will say that the actress who played Domino in Deadpool was great, but still, she should have been painted light blue. Or white. But I don't mean like white skinned white, like white as in like albino painted white, like the white and black people from that one Star Trek episode.
Well, white like Harley Quinn would have her.
Yeah,
her
like Joker. Yeah, exactly. With the
we're talking like a mime like pasty white. Not
exactly, like chalk white, not ghosty white, not like Caucasian, but actual the color white.
Like a mime, because Harley Quinn's whole thing is that it's theatrical.
Yeah, hers is, depending on continuity, her skin is actually chemically bleached like Joker's, or she paints it like in the cartoon. But yeah, and Domino, she's immune. Like, that's just part, living Domino.
Let the dominoes fall.
Honestly, a light blue would have worked too, like a whitish blue probably would have worked too. Because depending on the artist, it's white. Sometimes it's like a light blue because shading. Yeah. Because sometimes you can't always get some good, like that atypical shading you can't always get in comics.
Well, like look at the same way for back when Teen Titans was on. In other cases, like Raven. She has very gray skin. And it's variously kind of shown as either being just like literally being gray, like her skin is literally a gray pigment, or just like a off pasty white, or other depends on like the comic, whoever's writing.
Right, and like in some comics, it's just she's just a normal person, like it's just normal skin color. But that's exactly. Although at that point we're going to continuities, not artists.
But still.
But like the misconception of 2099 Spider-Man. His suit's black in the comics, and they use blue to outline the musculature and actually shade the characters, not just a giant black human-shaped blob on the page.
Yeah.
But people think that the costume is blue because of that, even though no, that's supposed to be just the lighting reflecting off. Because I think they were trying to go for this like atypical shading, like the RoboCop shading or the Covenant. Yeah. You know how like the Covenant armor, like light hits it, the purple looks blue or whatever. So they're trying to go for that with the costume, where it's like it's black, but when light hits it, it becomes a little blue. Which I thought the Shattered Dimension game very well. By having the suit have like this circuit light up text. Oh wow, the bot's back.
Blame Canada.
Yeah, 29.9 Spidey's suit is black. Because in the comic, they always refer to him as a man in the black suit. In the first issue? The first fight he ever gets in as Spider-Man, he is being tracked by a cyborg who has seen where he's gone because he's reading his heat sig and actually following a trail that leads him right to his apartment. So he decides to dress up as Spider-Man and have the cyborg chase him through the building, thinking, "Oh, Spider-Man just went into this building. That's why I'm reading the heat sig here, not because the guy who is Spider-Man lives here."
Yeah.
And so, but obviously, Spider-Man 29.9 has his Hollow Agent Lila, and he goes to Lila like, "Okay, tell him that a horrible man in black went through the window. Okay, Lila, good girl." And then he just goes through the window, and obviously Lila does what she's told to do. But it's funny, like it's not like, "Oh, a horrible man in black went through here." It's like, "A horrible man in black went through here. Okay, Lila, good girl." She says it like that.
Okay, that's funny.
But yeah, it's like essentially horrible man in black. I guess the suit is black with when light hits it becomes blue. But again, it's supposed to be this futuristic high-tech suit. Although it's actually made from the same material that the FF uniforms are made in Marvel Comics. Like those are some nice what they did in issues. Yes, Amazing One's also saying in the comment chat saying that I'm close to reporting them for work. Oh, about the bot. Wait, then why didn't it show your other comment? What the hell? Oh, my mistake. I misread. My mistake. Yeah, I thought you were referring to the black suit from the Raimi films, because I saw black suit and pornography, and I'm like, yeah, that was annoying. So context for that: the Spider-Man 3 was originally going to have a more classic Spider-Man, a black suit.
Well,
They did not end up using it because, according to, I don't even remember who it was, but like it wasn't Raimi. I think it was one of the producers. Yeah, it was one of the Sony guys. He's been doing stuff for years at the studio. The studios declined, but he was saying that it looked too much like a porno with the black suit. Trying to find the original image of it because it actually looked pretty good.
I gotta go and get to bed here, so I will be leaving.
Yeah, I think I'll end it here. Just want to show this thing off. That's not. So that's what it probably should have looked like if they were worried about the porno thing. But this is what they were actually making. Yeah. But anyway, I think I'm gonna end it there as well. It's been almost 4 hours, so. Yeah, Amazing One, correct. Because they're idiots. But yeah, that's gonna be it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed. And tune in next week for our big AAA, quote unquote, AAA gaming misconduct stuff. Because apparently every company, to none of our surprises, are guilty of this. So we're gonna be covering this big thing next week. We're not surprised, just disappointed. But yeah, this will be it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you're so inclined, give the video a thumbs up and share it and all that. If you didn't like it, thumbs down and tell us why in the comments, because we need to read those there. And that's gonna be it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed.